Hey guys, what's up? We're going to get started with a little bit of adventure tonight on the Uncooperative Holodeck because Mr. Space is unavailable at the moment. He's working on some Atlas stuff and we'll probably be streaming on Twitch in a little bit. I'm working on Uncooperative and Tex is working to keep everyone safe, so we're kind of holding off a little bit on this week's episode of Uncooperative, and we'll be back momentarily with that. But I want to play around on the holodeck some more. If you weren't watching my Twitch stream earlier this week, what I've done is I have a backup copy of the world from a few weeks ago, and I was going out and doing some weapons testing, trying to figure out what's going to work well for a weapon that we've got in our mod pack right now, as far as being able to do a decent amount of damage and still be somewhat buildable. Now, the question is the game going to handle this? Because this is already acting a little weird going in. Hey game, you do you. The Twitch session was mostly a lot of problems with the lot on the holodeck. Where we left things off here is in an interesting state because there's an enemy ship that's down just over the ridge. And it's resulting in a constant stream of stuff spawning in from everywhere. I mean, there are just ships all over the place here, and mind you, I'm in creative mode, so I don't have to worry too much about things like the grid shooting itself. It's a little annoying that you're doing that. Still haven't exactly figured out what the heck is up with the shield bubbles, unfortunately, but because the game is so willing to shoot itself, definitely causing some problems. Looks like you're trying to summon in some fighters over there. Got a copy of the Battle Pancake chassis over that way, doing some off-grid weapon stuff. But yeah, it's a wreck out here, a wreck fest, and that's primarily from a handful of turrets, the chosen turrets of what I've decided to go with. There's the wreck over there that has been causing everything to spawn, because you're spawning Ajax in almost literally within a kilometer of the base and everything. Unfortunately, it looks like the turrets are kind of a little upset about things in that particular state. And the game is actually tanking a little bit on this one. You wanna give me... Look at that, sim speed 0.4, 0.5. Single player world, mind you. So, yeah, I may need to do some trash cleanup around here in the relatively near future, though the base looks like it's already working to it on that extent. Or at the very... I don't want to actually shut down that ship out there, because this is perfect grounds for doing testing on. Except that's just kind of just sitting there, which is kind of odd, but okay, whatever. We need to do some work here. And on this particular world, obviously we're hurting because what is blowing up around here? I don't know, but when we've... Are you already glitching out, space engineers? Wow. Yep. Well, there you go, guys. My hands are off the keyboard right now. And you can tell, yeah, it's doing that glitch again. The one where everything that's on the ground is now completely stuck, endlessly rotating for no reason whatsoever. Try means that all the grids up top are probably trying to do that. That's going to be interesting. Yep, Steven, so no regular show tonight. Like I said, Wasted will probably be streaming Atlas in a little bit if he's not started already. Because obviously... a lot of folks involved in that, and that is kind of the new hotness at the moment. So I just figured I wanted to do a little bit more work on the holodeck. Try testing some ship designs, because something's... we gotta find something that's gonna work here. We've got weapons that should be able to handle things pretty well, but now we gotta try to put them on a chassis. And unfortunately, all the weapons I'm finding, they're all the ones that need to be in a large grid. There's some small grid weapons that aren't too bad. The plasma cannons, the dual plasmas, the 60mm, those aren't doing too bad. Those tend to work out pretty good for a split between range, damage, and what goes into the various bits of ammo. Past that, though, there's also the photon torpedo. That's requiring a lot more exotic weaponry, but that thing can vaporize a small grid pretty much instantly. I tested a shot on it on Wasted's little miner ship, which is, I believe, shielded. Blew that right out of the water. Haven't had a chance to test it on the Doomba yet, but it's one-shotting the fighters that are coming in. Problem is, it's got a hideous reload time, and you got to be able to lead your target really well, which I'm not very particularly good at. And that load just crashed the game. Well, this is an interesting start to tonight's festivities. What in heck is going on here? Because, yep. Crash to desktop and no sign of Keen's little crash animation either. Their little crash reporter. Alright, let's try relaunching. I hope this doesn't mean that that world has just gone kabonk on me. If not, I've got a backup copy of the backup copy, so we can always pull that back up. Yeah, it's exactly what's going on, Strith. It's just absolutely crazy. Aaron, my Twitch is same name as I am on YouTube. So this would have been, I believe, what was Thursday night stream? I can't remember which night I did it. It was about a 4.5-hour stream on that, where I was just kind of going over all the different little criteria I'm looking at for weapons and whatnot, and just kind of doing that. If this doesn't work out, Jared, I might kick over to BattleTech. I don't know. It probably wouldn't be. I wouldn't really do my normal Monday night thing on that because that's actually scheduled for next Monday. But yeah, if this doesn't work out, it's probably what I'll wind up having to do. Should kind of hate to do it because I'll have to kind of stop the stream, reset it, and restart it, but spinny things have stopped spinning. Oh, you're gonna do it, game. You've taken away the spinny things. You're thinking about it. Hey, there we go. And look at everything falling from where it was spinning. Oh, this is gonna kill the sim speed. This is gonna kill the sim speed. Oh, thank you for getting the textures in. You're kind of glitching through there, though. Okay, so you tilted far enough to go out onto my little scaffolding. Okay, sure. Alright, oh, that would be one of the reasons why there's an Ajax that just spawned in. Let's see how this one's gonna go down. Missile turrets have failed to engage yet. Base shields are under attack. Are you guys gonna... Seems to be 0.75. It's doing better on this load, actually, but that's interesting. Okay, the plasma cans have started kicking in. Missile turrets, if you could kind of engage. This is one of the problems with the weapon systems that I've chosen here. They're doing a really good amount of damage, but the turret speed is hideous. Fortunately, they're also engaging the base's shields, which is a little less than ideal at the moment. There we go, the base shields are down. We'll see how long this lasts now. Got 20 seconds, and they've got the backup energy shields, too. Alright, anyways, I need to build a ship, and because of the various criteria that we've identified over here, we kind of know what we're going out here and looking for. So, large grid, we're looking for the same combo that I've got set up on the base here. Looking for the HS missile launcher here. That's giving me a good amount of shoving firepower. We want the railgun because that's got a pretty good amount of damage per shot. And secondary weapons are going to be the plasma turrets. They're going to kind of be all spread out. And the reason for that is because of what's going to take to build the ammo on these things. Now, right now, the base has got Shaco launchers on here, which means that we're going through nickel. which we don't have. I don't know how much we really have of that. But we can swap that out for the same sort of ammo we're doing on the railgun. There's another Ajax that just spawned in. You see why this is a perfect place to test a large grid right now. Because every few seconds, we've got something spawning in from that ship that's down. You can see the energy shields are taking shots on the turrets there. Oh, this is beautiful. Promise it's not going to let me actually get my attempt to describe what's going on here yet. And yeah, I am solo tonight, Chaos. Tex is working, Wasted is working on Atlas, and because obviously he's on Atlas, Mac's over with them, so things are, well, Mac and Spacebar for that matter. Everyone's kind of busy in Atlas, and it's not a bad game. I think it's certainly been looking pretty good on the private servers, but not 100% my thing. I want to get my space engineers fixing this week. So where I was going before all the attacks happened, Railgun's got a 3-kilometer range on it, and realistically that's the best the AI can engage at. There's some turrets that we have access to. Oh, there's an incoming fighter there. There's turrets that we have access to that can fire further, but the turret AI is a little bugged in that regards. And the other thing to keep in mind is that as we've got the mod that's swapping in the turrets on these NPC grids, right now they're primarily setting ranges randomly between 800 and whatever they'll do. So 3 kilometers is a good mix. It should give us some good long-range firepower to hold off anything it's spawning in and coming at a distance. The HS missile's 2 kilometers and the plasma's 1 kilometer, so we've got a nice layered defense that we can work with. Problem is first off, we've got to actually protect the base, which is potentially always a bit of a problem. You can see the there's a ship over there that I've got that's taking fire, or trying to fire, shall we say. Small grids, they're just not cutting it. This down here is if you guys were watching last week, you saw the sleigh ride. This is the original version of that proposed for spawning in, minus all of the little add-on drones, and it doesn't really work. Weapons just don't hold out well on it. And then to also give you an idea, I brought in an old friend that you guys have seen before on Wasted's workshop, which would be the Omni. This thing is about as much as I dare armor a small grid. So right off the bat, if I go over and look at the shield readout here, you're going to see that it's got 300 shield power on a small grid. And this thing is not exactly a joke, aside from the fact that the Vulcan turrets don't work very well right now. This thing got basically over half of it destroyed by a single shot. That's why it's actually listed here next to the railgun. Half Omni. The railgun was able to blow through the Omni shields and take out half of the craft, the forward half. That counts as pretty impressive in my book. And you just can't really tech up a small grid to be able to accommodate that. So, unfortunately, like it or not, the Omni is not going to work. Now, the other thing I could also do is... let's go over and take a look at another chassis we got out here. Oh, it'd be so nice if there was a search feature in this. Look at all the downed Ajax grids that it's looking at. Nope, that's the one that got shot down. That's the one that got shot down. Come on, you should be out here somewhere. There we go. This is the armored core of... as we get back in view here. The armored core of the... well, not the armored core. The core of the Battle Pancake. All of its core systems literally just slapped together in such a way that I've got some shields on it. And essentially, yeah, hydrogen thrust to keep it upright, and that's pretty much it. Basic shields, that's it. And kind of the mix of railguns. This doesn't really function all that well as a core. We've got plenty of ice, so I'm probably thinking hydrogen design for what we're doing, but yeah, it's able to hold its own here. I mean, I've left this parked out here, and that's even despite mods that are very capable of one-shotting even the Battle Pancake stuff. I've been running into mods over here that have Uh-oh, did I just kill the... Okay, no, I didn't kill it. Be very careful about coming back to base in a hurry because it, LOD doesn't always deal with, this much damage out here very nicely. Got another one out there. MDC, we've got an eagle just floating overhead, making itself a pain. Alright, looks like this is about as quiet a moment as I'm going to get to try to do some building here. We basically need a large grid. Expand... That's the funny thing, Pete. I have tried doing that, just that, to expand the shield, and it's not working. And let me show you guys what I mean here. If I go into the shield emitters, station shield emitter. We've got that, and we've got the shield controller. You can see I've already set this to maximum size, width, and depth. And the only thing I can think of is actually if the... Maybe that was doing it. Yeah, that's what was doing it. The shield controller table that I put in the base has precedence over the controller I put down. Good to know. And that probably... How big of a shield did that generate? I'm not seeing the bubble yet. Bubble. Shield bubble. I know you're out here. Well, I'm still in the shield range, so... Oof. Yeah, I should probably tighten that shield range up. Which thing, Lucas? The big covering thing with 4 railguns on the back of it? That was just the battle pancake. Or the stripped down version of it, basically. It's actually good to know that that table's what's doing it. So let's turn off the controller there. Switch back to the table. And bring this back down to size. How's that? Is that better or worse? Oh, there we go. Now we're not shooting through the shield bubble, so... You can see the firepower of our fully operational, admittedly in creative mode, battle station. So, the base is definitely defendable. I mean, if we get the right kind of mix of weapons on it, and it will definitely handle itself, even having stuff spawning in at minimum range. Just means that, realistically, I'd have to find some way to get a ship to actually crash within distance there. That should be pointed out, Lucas. That is a little bit of an oddity with the reinforcement mechanic there. That it is stuck out there, and net result, this is probably... What am I up to on grid parts here named Ajax? Far too many at this point. It's doing good. 50 build and repair modules to clean around. Well, realistically, that's where if I had Blueprint of the Doomba, I'd be pulling that back in. Unfortunately, the Doomba was one of the first casualties up here. This is the crater it left when it got nuked by ships coming in. This is the uranium freighter that was right over there on this save, about a kilometer out, and it just started hammering the base right as we were downstairs doing the tour and everything. In fact, you can see Texfire is still listed down there. His body's still there. And that, of course, had the wonderful close explosion effect of disabling the link to the surface. This is the only link up to here, which is why the entire top of the base got severed, and why now inside I've got this makeshift setup here. Either way, we need to come up with something large grid, and it needs to be able to handle the weapon systems I've identified here. Oh, there we go. There's another one just spawned in. It needs to be able to... It's going to have to be able to support both shield modules, because the way I'm kind of running the base right now is we've got the station shield, and then we've got energy shield backup. Because inevitably when one fails, the other one can still take over a little bit, hopefully. And then from there, it's going to have maneuverability, because we need it to be able to potentially outfly weapons firing back against it at range that could just melt right through the shields. Ooh, look at that. That's pretty. See a turret flying through the air. I should just, you know, set up a camera on this world at this point and just let it record the carnage. Oh, I like that. Oh, is that where the shield is now? Okay, that's good to know. Let's confirm that. I should be... Okay, yep, that's where the shield is. Oof. That's a nasty little hit. Okay, we can bring that in tighter. There's no need for it to be that far out. Oh, it's just... We're not going to get much salvage out of it, but it is doing a good job of tearing that up. Come here. Shield. So we can make the base defensible. That's always a good thing to know. 200. 200. That should be a bit closer in on range. I was wondering why the Ajax just suddenly stopped. Yeah, that's good. I think that's a pretty good range right there. Gives us some nice high protective cover. Blight with all the optional extras. Oh god, no. No. Because the... Here's another one. The stuff that we had in PvP wouldn't work here, because we're in gravity, so the grav drives alone make that a pretty failing attempt at coming in. Just everything, hammering the crap out of this stuff. And the great part is, like, with the Ajaxes here, these are coming down with some, maybe not perfect parts, but they're coming down with some choice stuff. In enough windows that we should be able to keep the silicon required for ammo going. But that's not what we're worried about. Let's show you guys something. Let's see how long... Oh, that's right, I got a slight problem with the Omni. The Omni's not capable of atmospheric flight very well. Space flight, yes. Atmospheric, no. To the point where even with the wings, and the wings are working on single player a little better than they are on multiplayer, this thing is still going to be taking a pounding. There's an Ajax over that's down. No, he's flying in. Alright. Tell you what, I'm going to show you guys what happens when we take a fully shielded... after remembering what to type in. There we go. Alright, so I've got an Ajax that's lining up on me here. Actually, for one miracle, this is spawned in with standard weaponry. Means I might actually have a fighting chance against this one. Yeah, a little bit of a nudge with the shields, it's fine. It's actually going a lot better than when I was trying to engage a ship with modded weapons. And she's gone. Alright. See, now this would be what I would expect to have for performance from this grid normally. Minus the 0.8 sims, no, 0.58 sim speed there. That works. Well, I'm going to leave her out in the middle of the open here. Just to show you what happens when you start seeing the modded weapons get into play here. Because I believe this down ship here has modded weapons, the heli. And yeah, the connection underground is actually repaired. It wouldn't really matter this time because I'm playing in creative at this point. So realistically, from Bob, I'm not getting all that realistic of a result because he's able to clean up things instantly. That short little time, there you go. There's some modded weapons hitting it. There's an Ajax down. Oh, the Ajax that's down on the ground has gotten involved. Let's see if we can pop in. See what you're up to. Shields are halfway down already. So let's take you down here. Let you visit the Ajax down here. Some of these might still have modded weapons on them, which would be nice. Looks like that guy finally managed to recover. There we go. Missile, missile. It's actually not doing too bad for once. She absolutely got ripped through the railgun shot. In fact, that might be what I'll actually do. Let me fly her back over to a point where I can engage the base. Just watching missiles ripping by as I execute that turn. That's kind of scary. It's actually tanking that pretty well. Vanilla, she'd be able to hold up pretty nicely, but this isn't vanilla. Need some flat cannons that will mince the enemy ships. Well, that's the other problem. You see the Vulcans on this, we're not firing at all. That's a slight problem with those that aren't working right now, unfortunately. Let me grab control of one of our railguns over here. The secondaries have engaged. Let's see. There's some missile turrets going off. Nope, I want you to be control, please. Give me the guns. Gun. Control. There we go. Alright. 3-kilometer range on this sucker. You're reloading. Lovely. You see how that just completely melted through the shields on that, which were basically fully charged? In 2 shots, I've ripped apart that craft. And now it looks like the base is going to engage, get its digs in. It's still recharging some shields because they're in the back section of that thing, but yep, there you go. I've just actually caused the shield mod to glitch out, and there's nothing left. That's what we're facing with the modded weapons right now. Even something like the railgun, which admittedly it's got a very long reload time on it, the railguns just absolutely obliterate unshielded targets. And they obliterate shielded targets. And that will apply even if I had energy shield, the defense shields on that too, keep in mind. Just like how they're getting utterly stopped by that though. We're gonna have to definitely keep that in mind for a base shield setup. We can't afford one right now is the problem. But at the same time, if we're gonna be able to ever afford a base shield, we need to actually start salvaging some parts, which is why we're at the objective on this little outing. Let's finally get back to this, because I'd like to actually build something. And primarily, we're going to need a grid that's within our parts budget. Now, that said, with this being a backup copy of the world, the parts aren't 100% accurate, but as far as what we've got to work with, there's not a lot. I think I actually have Izzy on, if I remember right. I think I turned her on during the stream. Just to kind of outline what we've got in the base here, which is not a lot to work with. Now, mind you, in where we're at in Uncooperative right now, all of these things have been stripped down for parts. So this is what we've got to work with. We've got a decent amount of... And I've also technically got super... Why are you queuing everything? I know I turned you off on auto. Yeah. The other nice thing is on Uncooperative, I've got everything switched over to automatic LCDs now instead of the Izzy system. So that's the last snapshot of what we had in the base before we start disassembling everything. So middle grids are going to definitely be a problem going forward here. We've got superconductors I can strip down for parts, but the large reactors are going to go through quite a bit of it. We've got a limited supply of gravity generators because we are trying to stick with hover vehicles, and I want to stick with those too, but yeah. You'll note the effect of everything being hit down here, about the same as what it was on the series, so... That one even severed the tunnel down there. Come on, let me out. Come on, game. Alright, so... We're kind of having to go with a small design, because... Honestly, what I kind of have in mind is something not too far off from, say, the Good Intentions, because that was a pretty good solid design. Its only real weakness was it was kind of let down by the game's security permissions, unfortunately. So I kind of like the idea of the overall shape, but I want to do something a little different here. No, they are definitely not glitching. It's not glitching through the... Well, how do I want to say this? It technically is. It is, but it isn't, because the way the... Like you point out, the way the shields work, the visual effect of bullets getting through the shield still happens. That's why you see the energy shields here still sparking. Because even though the shield here is not taking any damage, they're still, you know, reacting like it's taking damage, because the reaction, the shot that's there that's getting through isn't getting through, but it is. Because it's complicated, wibbly-wobbly, timey-wimey ball of, you know. Let's put our little stick down into the desert here. Put you there and cut you off from the base, because I really don't need to keep 1,000,001 things connected to it, and I want mirror mode. Oh, thank God I've got mirror mode again. Keen really could use with adding that one to the game. Why are you... Now you're acting all wonky trying to build. You're stuck in mirror mode. Weird. Okay. I was definitely acting a bit odd there, trying to build that out. So, keeping in mind that right off the bat, first off, when I build this thing in the series, I'm probably going to have to try to build it here. Just to keep it under cover. I don't know how quickly we'll be able to refit all the stuff out here. Just a graveyard constantly over here. I love it. Oh, so many ships that are just... It's so beautiful. It's a beautiful salvage paradise out there. Maybe not SimSpeed paradise, but... Oh, whoa, 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 whoa. Bob, stop. That grid's got power. Keep your mitts off of it. Trying to grind down my base ships. Bob, the... Ladies and gentlemen, Keen's buggy as feck permission system and ownership. Thank you so much for that, Keen. Grid may be separate, but it is still one that I am responsible for building. The problem is how can I get you to override this? Let's give you power and give you a cockpit on here. That should keep you from trying to sever it because I own it. It's gonna be a pain for mirror mode, but it'll work. Chunks in the hangar, then assemble, merge outside. It's something I thought about. The trick with doing chunks in the cockpit and assembling outside is we need something that would be heavy enough to lift a large grid, and small grids aren't. I mean, it's just, you know, the best you can really do. Is a small grid, you have to really over-engineer the small grid to be able to pull out a chunk. And then on top of that, you're leaving a chunk of the ship outside still, where it's still just as vulnerable. So it's an interesting thought, Lucas, but yeah, it's going to be a little tricky to pull off. The other thing I want to do is I'm going to borrow a little bit from the Battle Pancake here. So one of the fun things about that ship was all of the thrust was protected. So we do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 7, 8. So that's our safety spot there. Need to go back 3 for the thruster. I just left that spot there then. Come on. And the other thing is, I really doubt it's an engine limitation, the whole permission system. That's just... It strikes me as just a bunch of bull, but... I could be wrong. Alright. Go for a little bit of that. That should keep these guys nice and safe. Oh, we've got a much bigger invasion here. Protoss Corvette and an Ajax, and a couple fighters coming in. Well, this should be good. It's building with a bit of fun going on in the background there. Let's go ahead and tank it up. Unlike the pancake, I'm only going to go for one on the back. The reason I'm thinking hydrogen is we have so much ice on the base that Tex is having a field day trying to get it out of the way so he can fill bottles. So let's actually put it to some use. Right? Let's see. Drive it like that. I should also have armored conveyors on here. Let's do... Ooh, he's getting nice and close. He's got a big old turret on him. Look at that. Let's see what happens when he gets close within the shields here. Crunch. So fortunately, that's problem one. I don't think we're going to be able to build a shield on the base. Ooh, pretty explosion there. Keep in mind, I've also set myself as not being targetable too, so... Station shields are holding. Looks like the secondaries are kicking off. Good. Let's see. A T-section where we can engage. There too. Nope, not that kind. Control curved. The little guys don't stand much of a chance over here. Plasmas aren't great, but they will eventually chew through the small grids pretty quickly. It's kind of funny that you can actually... Wow, there's another one already coming in. This is actually on the verge of pushing. Let's see what the shield readouts say right now. It's a lot of stuff coming through. Shields are holding. It's taking quite a bit of power for maintenance, but again, I wouldn't be running the actual base shields that far out, and certainly not with that much power available either. Then again, if we also had a ship crashed out there, you can bet we'd be going after that pretty darn quickly. This is just illustrating one of the more amusing things that can happen in the game at the moment with this particular mod setup. Just have to remember to ignore the stuff that's blasting everything away. You're perfectly fine. Okay, we're going to build everything kind of around what I've got here. So the idea with the Battle Pancake was you had a very well connected chassis, multiple redundant paths going through everything, and that way if you could take damage down one side of the ship and you weren't going to lose everything useful that you had. This one, we're going to... Actually, that's... No, that was what I wanted to keep. Game, you're... Keenan, your lovely, accurate selection boxes. Thank you. Should I slow that thruster up? I think these guys have enough clearance. Anyone know the, remember the clearance for the large thrusters off the top of your head? Actually, hang on, let me... just paste the pancake in. Let's see, that was... Oh, not that pancake. That's the one that doesn't have... The one with the rear thrust protection on it. There's one. Trying to find a copy that actually has the... I think that one's close enough. Okay, yeah, that's close enough. That was... I don't know what you're going to do when I paste you in, but probably fall over knowing my luck. You were... I'm trying to remember how much... Oh, yeah, you're a battle damaged one, too. You see into the grav drive from there. That's before I put the access ways in here. Alright, so the back of this was originally where we had the full-on thrust. So that was a 3-block thruster in here where the grav drive is. So that was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yep, okay. 5 blocks for proper clearance on the thruster. So the thruster exclusion zone is entirely internal, which means I don't have to worry about protecting these guys from damage quite so much. Need to figure out some place to fit some auxiliary thrust in here. Do something there, and get to use Mr. Spacebar's wonderful armored conveyors, so I don't have to worry about building stuff I don't really need. Stick four-way cross in there. This one's I'm tempted to actually keep as a... Actually, no, because I want to focus more on armor on the front. Some top thrust and some bottom thrust. More on the bottom than the top. The great thing is with those being... No, the armored conveyor should be mirroring properly. Because you can see that this one's... Well, actually, that one might be placement error on my part. Let's see if I screwed... Yeah, I screwed up the armor placement on that one. That's not the mod, that's me. That's Mr. Farrell letting the mod down at that point. That one's placed properly. Hello, Mr. Ajax. Oh, yeah, that is tilted down. Tilted down, tilted up. Okay, didn't know that. That's okay, we can work around it. Love how the pancake is just hanging in there right now. Hydras aren't even on that thing, amusingly enough, and it's staying nice and tight. The way I'm kind of thinking about this design is... Actually, let's not put those guys in. Let's put... We're going to run the missile turrets on sidecar here. The question is, which way is front? Oh, that's not front. Back, right, forward. Okay, outward works too. Want to run 2 missile turrets on either side. And then sitting out here in the back, where we're going to build in a little more redundancy into our setup here. A straight connector. And the 4-way cross pointing up, down. I want to have that main cannon somewhere where it's integral to what's going on here. Actually, I do need a conveyor junction on this one. This is one of those places I legit need one. Don't you go whining to me about I'm causing some speed lag. Being very cautious with the way I'm building this one. This one in. That side, mirror on here. And what we're going to do is, I want to keep, since the tank is explosive, I want to try to keep, actually no, I don't want to keep it away. We're going to actually court a little bit of failure on this design. Go for a straight connection there. The railgun in the back. Perfect. Placed perfect the first time. Single railgun, 2 missile turrets and defense on either side. And then what I'm going to do is kind of do some jaws up towards the front here and run the secondaries off of that. So effectively, what we're going to have is... let's find the T section here. Yep. Cross straight. If I had all that laying out there in my game, I'd never have to mine again. Yeah, I mean, let's... ah, that is a good point. Auto-rotate is on. Well, that's definitely not helping matters. That was a good catch. Okay, defense on the outside. Let's stick... there's a 40 mil over there. Nope, not you there. Let's... there you go. Whole front end of that Ajax just split off. Granted, it looks like it's, the reinforcements are actually spawning without enhanced weapons. So this isn't exactly really 100% a fair fight. Between that and the fact that I'm doing this in creative mode too. So, unlimited ammo, effectively unlimited power. This is kind of borrowing a little inspiration off the Battle Pancake, because the great thing about that was that armored core was very tricky to actually penetrate. So if you're looking for... let's get the mirroring back on, see if that will work now. See, Bob's doing a little bit of repair there for me. I also have to remember to put Bob's on this thing. Bob's and cargo. The great thing about the Battle Pancake is, prior to us, well, once we had the armored connections here, makes it pretty easy to get your weapons away from the core of your ship, which is where you don't want them sitting, usually. Exception being the railgun right now back there, because that's sitting right on top of the big explosive thing in the back of it, but... that gives me some distance to work with. So think of this as kind of like a Battle Pancake Mark II, I guess. And I need to get a cockpit on this sucker. Also, building this out in a skeleton form first, because I don't really feel 100% confident. Ooh, actually, that's right. I need to sit you on top of a connector somewhere here, because that'll give me O2 into the cockpit, which is kind of a nice thing. Can't really fit one on here, though. I'm hesitant to put a forward cockpit, because that inevitably causes problems, and yeah, I gotta fix that too. Let's catch you temporarily. Veering off. And that's not necessarily Spacebar's fault, by the way, guys. That is a major keen hassle, because if you've ever tried to do mirroring with the modular thrusters, you'll know you run into the same problems. Guess I could stick the cockpit up at the front section here, actually. Kind of hesitant to. Why are you not lighting up? You're connected, connected, connected. Wow. That is very annoying. But yeah, that's Keen's issue, ladies and gentlemen, unfortunately. They like to... taking some damage to the ship there through the shield, even though it's not actually damage. Just give me an idea of what kind of... Nice thing about this is the thrusters are going to be shielded in here. Because they're going to have armor built around them like the Pancake did. The Pancake itself is not drawing any fire. That's hilarious. That's the state that thing existed in for the better part of over a month, guys. Just in case you're wondering. Looks like Bob is finding a reason to do some repairs here. Speaking of our wonderful friend, as soon as I spot another conveyor, that's not right. And another conveyor that's not right. They're just all over the place. They're multiplying. Where's your bend? Give me the bendy bend. There we go. Alright. So that's what we've got. We've got our core there. I need to figure out where to work Bob into this design. Because obviously he is very much an integral part, and you're okay because I had to do that way, because there's no T in that direction, multiple directions, so to speak. Build and repair. Let's focus on having 2 at the front of the ship. And these are the kind of things that I would be setting up primarily for local repair only. I'm not going to be going out and doing salvage. Unless I were to completely run out of parts on this design and have to scrounge from what's out there. I'm going to do a mirror. You're... Oh, not that bug again. You were connected. What are you? It's doing that rotational bug again, I suspect. Can find out pretty easily. Let's take a look down here in the hangar. What are you up to? Nope, you're stand put at least. It's only disconnected grid. That's weird. Also very annoying. So I want the missiles to be somewhat elevated, because I also still have to work in hovers on this thing if I can too. Bob, you're going to be up here, providing a pathway out to those turrets. Not the curved. Straight through, straight through. Mirroring off. Bend up to the top. And kind of extend the wings a little bit. Just so that way they can fire out over the auxiliaries here. Kind of didn't really envision running these that far out either, though. I don't know if I'm gonna... Might pull them back in one, actually, thinking about that. Okay, Keen's back to normal operation there. Yes, we'll run them off of 1 out instead of 2 out, because I kind of like the idea of a slimmer ship. Just be easier to control. Side thrust is also something I think about, too. Krieg's not going too bad. I mean, it's not going as quick as the disassembly process is out here. 0.43 sim speed. So definitely feeling it, but it's almost like feeling like I'm at home right now here. Oddly enough. Cockpit's the other problem. I need to figure out where I'm piping in the cockpit, and really sticking on the front works. It's unfortunately first thing that the enemy's going to target. And realistically, safest spot for that is actually in the back, and also from the bottom too. It would be nice if we could actually get into the ship safely. Maybe I could curl it in next to the hydrogen tank. Kind of build down 2 levels so I can pipe from underneath. I have a lot of options for the large grid cockpit setup is the problem. I don't want to use a flight seat or anything, because that's going to be even harder to protect. So yeah, let's do this then. Let's put a T-section on the back. So I also need to figure out where to pipe in a connector. Which will probably come off of that bit there. Go for a straight section down here. She'll have a bit of a tail to her, so to speak. Actually, that's not a bad deal. I'll put another T down here and put another connector. So that way, if you're on the ground, you can actually pull stuff directly out of inventory. It also means you'll be able to see if the hydrogen tank starts to take damage, and that's your cue to GTFO. So let's do the connector. So forward connected there, and one in the back for offloading. So we're going to wrap that in a little bit of armor. Let's actually give it a thing to stick through. So this one I'm really not too worried about what's going on here for base protection. I mean, this is definitely proof. That's 2 railguns, 3 missile turrets, and just like a small handful of those plasmas as backups. They're doing pretty good. And you guys are not linked at all together because of that bug. Urgh. Mr. Spacebar, we need to see if you know if there's a way to fix that. I doubt there is, but otherwise modular thrusters would have been fixed long ago. Just because I need lift on all sides of the vehicle. It would be really nice. You're not showing as connected. What's your deal? That says to me that you aren't... Oh, not this again. Keen. This is really annoying. Look, yep. Everything on the ground. Here you go, Keen. This is visual evidence that your game is still broken. Damps off, no change. Damps on, no change. Damps and thrusters off. Let's see if that works. Now that I've dropped free of the grid, that helps. But yeah, everything on the ground except the base. Okay, not everything on the ground. You're not rotating around. Everything within range of a grid at a certain point will just start randomly rotating around if it touches the ground or touches anything touching the ground. Which is why the second I backed into that thruster there, it started doing it. You must not be wired in right. It's a 4-way. Oh, no, that should have been a full-on connector. Why are you not... There we go. Now you're connecting up properly. I don't know why it was saying it wasn't hooked up, but it wasn't. Yeah, see, and that, because of the fact that these grids are now rotating around, that's tank sim speed. Okay, let's start actually getting rid of some of the wrecks out here, because this is starting to slow things down a bit. I'll have plenty of opportunities left to get a new grid, especially because it looks like there's a Nomad cargo ship that's going to potentially make the mistake of coming by. He's hanging out there in the world. I don't know why he's not explicitly coming over, but no, you're turning. Yep, and you're rotating. And you're probably rotating because you're blasting yourself to pieces. I think that Ajax might be... Oh, there we go. Take a look at that. Oh, Bob got it. Darn. Just random bits and bobs all starting to rotate through the air now. Battle Pancake's perfectly fine, though. you have a tube on the outside. That's why you're red, so that's expected, except not that. Wow, this just really didn't work. Oh, Keen. Keen. I actually did try to write a review for the game the other day, and it's not letting me submit it even when I do it through the web interface. Makes you wonder why that would be the case. And legit, I tried to give them some props. Still not a game I would necessarily recommend, but maybe once it's released... Oh, you're running around in circles down there too. Once it's released, and maybe they start letting people work with it instead of constantly change it every week. Well, not every week. That would be the old day pace. I mean, now it's... They're just not doing anything. And letting a rotation bug like that continue to have fun. What happens if you hit the shields right now? Because the shields are effectively kind of an extension of the grid. And, I mean, like we saw, if I even touch this grid, I'll start rotating. Ooh, there's the missile hits for you right there. That's why I want to have the missiles on this design. Because that tips and you just go out of control. Of course, now they're hitting the shields. Ouch. It's like the Titanic debris field out here right now. Just pass the message to spacebar through MacDoodle on Twitch tonight. But you didn't have to do that. I mean, legit, that's definitely not a game-ending bug there if the rotation doesn't work right. And like I said, I suspect that there is definitely something Keen's side that they need to fix in that regards. Oh, you're not going the right way either. There you go. Something about the mirroring just doesn't quite work right with certain kinds of pieces. Okay, railgun, two sides. The auxiliaries, we've got a scoped out cockpit underneath. The idea is this is going to have some shielding around it. That's the next thing I need to worry about. Shielding on this ship and where I'm placing the power supplies. And where I want to place them, honestly, is... So I left these guys down here. A curve. I'm going to borrow azimuths. Smaller reactors. I definitely can't squeeze a large one on here, because that would just cause utter chaos. Mind you, I'm putting them right next to the hydrogen, so when this thing blows, it'll blow nice and pretty. It will definitely... Oh, come on, not again. Drop me... I just put my back against the grid and it just started rotating me. That's ridiculous. Should be good. Now that ship's touched the ground, so that's going to be spinning around. One of those cases where sometimes with space engineers you just have to grin and bear it. By the way, HSR has a battery type. The railguns do. I'm standardizing on the basic one for a reason. Let me see if I can come over and get to the board here. I'm kind of standardizing that on the regular railgun because I believe the ammo type had a slightly different effect on the other ones. Let's see if I can find them here. The reason why, here's the railgun case, the normal railgun. You can barely see that because of my hover distance, and don't touch because I'll... There we go. Might be able to actually see this one now. So iron ingot, magnesium powder, nickel, and silver for the standard rounds. If you start talking about the other turrets, now you're swapping out stuff. So instead of magnesium, you're using platinum. We don't have a lot of platinum, so NE's not going to work. And I could swap over for realistically, the only one I could do would be the SS. Now, I'm not exactly sure what the difference is, but honestly, with these things shooting through and disabling small grids, shielded small grids with 1-2 shots, I'm pretty happy with the way it's at right now. I don't really feel like I need to have all of that ammunition type. I'm about ready to actually turn on. I know it's probably off right now in this world. There's your trash removal. Let's just do this to see what happens. We want to have moving, accelerating with blocks less than 20. Let's just do blocks less than 10, just to be on the safe side. Split changes. Able. Let's see what that does for trash removal. A little bit of live trash removal that you can see there. Not really helping at all. And again, it's got a lot to go through. Probably also just took Tex out too. Sorry, Tex. Let's drop that down to less than 5 blocks. Try that one. There we go. 0.5, dropping down to 0.3. Alright, that'll buy me a little bit of time at least. Aside from clearly dancing grids. The dance of the magical grids. Let's see, how did I put that? You're wired the other way around. NE is a non-explosive round option. SS is scatter shot, so large radius, low damage. Yeah, so I would definitely be sticking with the standard round at that point. We need the penetration damage more than we need the spread, especially with it being a turret. It's going to do a better job of firing dead on with that one. The other thing I also have to do, while I'm thinking about it, is find a bob I can touch without getting to touch the grid. I'm running non-standard setup here. Missile turrets need to be maxed out on range. Railgun turret needs to be maxed out on range. Worried about the plasma, so once I get those all in. And you are not firing. What's your deal? You're there. You're indicating connected. Huh. I'm thinking that might actually be bugged mirroring replacement there. Shouldn't have been, because I'm pretty sure I did that one on that side, but not the cross. This needs to be Barrier Junction. Maybe I did screw that one up when I placed it. I don't know. Well, that Ajax is trying to come in from a different approach. Didn't work for him any better. It's nice to actually be able to work on this world and not have to worry about, oh, I hear weapons firing, what's going on? It's not DAGs, I've got those turned off. Alright, so you've got that. We need some backwards and forwards thrust, we need side thrust. How do I want to work that in? I'm thinking Battle Pancake style. Find a gap in what you're working with and stick a junction in there. This is why the Battle Pancake got so hideously complicated in the end, because this thing is a rabbit's nest of just junctions everywhere inside of here. Redundant connections and just all sorts of stuff. Because there's no real way to actually do that sort of thing in Keen. Because there's no such thing as a T-block. Alright, you are... Right, that's where I was working. Don't Don't get too close, otherwise you're going to start circling around like an idiot. Do I want to do that there? If I do that, I'm gonna have problems armoring that turret there. Let's actually do this instead then. Find somewhere else to stick the secondaries. Because that was another problem I had on this design, was with the side thrust here. Towards the end I was building in thrust chambers in here, and it was making the tubing in here an absolute nightmare. And then the desire not to have connectors and try to stagger turrets for better fire like I did here, that led to some really awkward tubing. And that was all before we had the armored conveyors to work with, so unfortunately, retrofitting that was not a top priority. I think we can fit the auxiliaries up front. Probably work a bit better because they'll be able to armor both into the same armor line. Tarmac, it didn't work. Honestly, the idea was fine, but this thing suffered from the big problem of the Gatlings can't do jack squat on it. And that was basically it. That's all this thing was, and when I originally built it, the fact that it was one block to... It was basically what I'm building up here, which is something that's got a single block thickness to the wings, basically. It's a great idea on paper, but when you don't have Bob, trying to keep that thing repaired was always a problem. They were always going into here. Somewhere in here would always be some junction that was just messed up. It'd be something that had, like right here. Here's a junction that when I took this blueprint had damage. So as much as I was harping on everyone on red team, fix the green spots on your armor, I had probably more green spots inside that thing that I didn't even know about. And you are... I saw a dash of red over here. Okay, no, but you're on the outside wings. That's okay. So, that means you need to go, you need to go, you need to go. Let's just get the design mirrored over here. And that was the other problem, is that ship really needed... That Battle Pancake, when I was starting to do the overhaul, it really needed mirroring mode. Because the tubing in there, I know it is definitely lopsided on the final blueprints. There is no way I had that thing set up properly. Alright, so some basic armor running back on the slats. Like so. And then the idea is we're going to have the auxiliaries coming off of that, 2 on that side, and mirrored over onto here. Holy crap, I got it right. It's tempting to actually stick a missile launcher in the forward nose on this thing. Because this is definitely going to be the front. Got those inline bobs there. 4 bobs should be enough, so now I need to figure out where I'm putting shield gens. This is going to be the next tricky part. This part, I suspect, is probably not going to be built until we actually have more platinum on hand, because... Well, that's kind of weird. With all the grids bugged out like that out there and all standing up on their side, it's almost like a weird little forest. Huh. It's kind of neat. Pretty game. Stick the shield gen here, one side, and you on... Nope, not there. There. Good amount of components shielding the thruster there, and building up some of the back of the bulk. And now I suspect That sound, that little click sound that you guys probably didn't hear, was probably the game now deciding the audio is going to be bugged out too. I feel like I need more downwards thrust on this thing. Because I know from trying to make that thing fly in orbit, that weight was not inconsequential. Problem is, armor represents a vulnerability, or thrust represents a vulnerability in the armor. So where you add some, you inevitably create a hole that something is going to start chewing away at you. I'm not... Why am I being so worried about the armor on this thing? It's not like it's actually really realistically expected to go up against a full-on heavily armored target and survive somehow. Because with the mod... Yeah, I've got no sound now. That's lovely. Let's actually keep that open. That's right, I need to work that in somehow. Put you in temporarily. I'm missing my cockpit cargo system. That is an incredibly useful thing to have. Oh, jeez, that's annoying that I don't have the sounds there. So I'm basically just going to be hitting all of the Keen bugs tonight, apparently. Yeah, so you heard that click was the sound of the phone melting in the ambassador's office. That click was the game saying, I've given up on the sound, I can't deal with it, la la la. Yep. Alright, actually, you know what? Why am I doing that? Let's not do that. I'm going to do cargo carrying capacity back here. Let's do this intelligently. There we go. Alright, now I can kind of take that down. Always a useful thing to have a bit of cargo storage there, and that's why this is not going to be a salvage ship. This is purely to go out and defend the real salvage ships as they're going out and doing their operations. Kind of feel like this back is going to be a little weird. I might mount another railgun out the back. We'll see what happens when I start getting armor on this. The other spot I need to think about is the midline. Let's drag out all the way back there. And yes, I know I'm covering up shield upgrade slots. I'm not anticipating putting shield upgrades on this thing. Because as nice as they would be, 2 large shield generators are going to give me most of the power I could potentially pack into this thing anyways. That will seal the front to that. Kind of like a little pocket warship almost at this point. Maybe even almost, it could almost be a mini Argo. Mini Argo from Battletech there. That. Okay, this is going to drive me nuts. Hang on, guys. I've got to reload. Not, if only to stop the spinniness, then to get the sounds back. Seriously, Keen? There we go. There's the click that says, oh yeah, we've realized that we need to reinitialize the sound engine because it's screwed over. But that said, you know, a year and a half ago, this probably would not have been working at all. Even a year ago, it would have been bugged out. Not that it... Well, actually, the only bug I haven't seen yet is the LOD bug. I had that during the Twitch stream. So, Keen, if you want a world that has every known that will trigger every known possible bug that we have in the game that I can think of that's really on the nasty list right now, probably, I can give you a copy. So messing with the blueprint in single player, it turns out the Battle Pancake can fly in Atmo without anything on it. Keep in mind that the blueprint I put out there is just the bare chassis. There's no armor, there's no weapons. It's just barely able to fly in Atmo. When I tested it at one point initially, when I had the design finally built and took it out into a world to test it, it could barely fly in Atmo if you didn't want to land. And then the moon, by the time I had it really fully up and armored, it could not even go into the atmosphere of the moon. Okay, that's better. Everything is behaving itself now. It's staying flat on the ground. Aside from a grid that has decided it is... I saw you dancing around. What's your deal, friend? Your movement caught the corner of my eye there. You were trying to twitch around. Crazy little thing. Alright, yeah, it's hard to get a big grid that's gonna do it, especially once you start coding in heavy armor. And this is not gonna have heavy armor. I am not setting myself up for that repeat anytime soon. Hey, noises. What do you know? I can have noises again in my ears. My ear holes. 3-kilometer... It's kind of hard to say that this is doing all that great because unfortunately these Ajaxes, you'll see that that one spawned in at 2 kilometers right there. So by the time they're in that spot, the grid's already within fire. It's lost a, you know, well, for the railguns, they've lost a kilometer of response time. They're doing a good job of spawning in at roughly the same spot, so that helps. I'm really worried that that's not going to be enough. Tell you what, I do want to fit hovers on this thing. I mean, they're probably going to be here just for an emergency. There's a big explosion lighting things up. What's going on there? Oh, yeah, that'd be what's going on. Big explosion. It's still shooting itself there. I love that. Kind of thinking, let's put the hovers because they've got extra components. Sort of there and there. So you've got side thrust, you've got a heck of a lot of forward thrust, you've got backwards thrust. Now for the next part of the challenge. Because I'm not leaving this thing fully Atmo capable, or Atmo less. I still want to have some thrust coming through here. That's going to be giving me some extra backup to the hydrogen power, shall we say. And even to the point of, let's put one there. A little bit of debris decided to come down for a visit. Thank you, Mr. Debris. Kind of balances out the thrust potential here. Let's wrap around. Do I want to wrap around thrusters in there? I can put more there. Yep. Also thinking those hovers are, well, no, they're not great, but like I said, they're there for an emergency. Realistically, they should be one block further down, but I think they're not going to pose any significant problems if they're there. Let's go hover. First off, turn you guys all off. Right there. So the hovers won't kick in. The Atmos should be good. A little worried about power still, and I haven't put any batteries on this. We don't have a ton of batteries on board to work with is the problem, or materials to make batteries, so it's just... Oh, and gyros. Almost forgetting one of the more important things. Working those into the design. The other problem with the Battle Pancake, hang on, it's actually... computer reset daytime, please, so I can actually see. There we go. The other problem with the Battle Pancake is when you've got something like this big, massive opening in the rear for protecting yourself from the thrust, you know, protecting your thruster, and having to keep all that clear, it's wasted space in the design. That's why I actually have these two pointing at each other, because they should minimize the amount of space I would need, the length I'd need to make this craft to protect it. Something's shooting a heavy shot through here. What's going on, guys, huh? Leave this poor little defenseless ship alone right now. So we have to find our... Actually... kind of like the idea of putting them along that line on both sides. That should give me that. We need Atmo thrusters in the other directions. HSR gyro has 6 mount points and is quite effective. Well... 15 gravity components, though. We don't have the gravity components to spare for that. I mean, that's why I'm having to be very chintzy and cheap with the hovers on this, because I know with all the rebuilds we've done on the Doomba since this save was made, we probably don't have a lot of platinum and gravity components left over right now. The shields are holding up nicely there. Should just bring the other item to point. Let's get a shield emitter. Ship style on place. So that's our shield emitter and shield controller. Table, shield controller. Alright, I'll at least get that bubble shield up. Don't know how much we're actually going to get for a shield on this thing because of the limited power generation on board. Yeah, Krieg, that was one of the problems that I was having with the weapon selections. I mean, like, for instance, I ran quite a bit of stuff through, and like I know Wasted's got the Dark Age Ruptures, or had them on the base, and it's like, great, it's a good thing, but the range on that at 600 meters was, at max 600, kind of unfortunately limits that use for, you know, defensive installation here. Do need to play around with this setup actually and re-migrate it back down to the ground and move the power generation under. See if I can actually get a proper base defense setup here that fits all underground for it. Got gyros, we have thrust. We're only looking at hydrogens right now. For steering, let's fit. Yeah, because I can build the nose out over this. So we're going to have 2 plasmas coming off to the side, top and bottom, each side. Got enough room, I could mount another railgun forward. Or I could stick a missile launcher forward, but the missile launchers actually have pretty good coverage right now. I start thinking about how this is going to have some armor. Let's see, 3. That must be another Ajax coming in. See all the turrets perk up all of a sudden. So we kind of run it like that. It's just a giant turkey shoot out there right now. Yeah, I think what we're going to do is kind of taper the nose down a little bit in front. It's going to come down to here, and then... kind of build the nose out a little bit. Again, I don't want this thing to be hideously heavy either, because that's going to definitely cause a problem. We've got ice, we just don't have endless supplies of it unless we get authorization from the boss to go out on a mining trip. Yep, we got another one coming in from that angle. They're sneaking in from everywhere. Actually, what's still up in the sky at this point? We got another Ajax coming in. I'm kind of surprised that the turret replacement's not happening on the Ajaxes when they spawn in. Yeah, it could be, Krieg. I mean, most of your stuff is ranged within between 800 and 1.5-ish, and obviously we got further ranges too. I don't mind it being 600 because it means the ruptures actually can work for point defense against the wolves. It's trying to beat down. Turret is looking confused. Turret is looking very confused. There's this wreck over here, and it keeps bumping all around, and I can't understand why. Atmospheric, go and stop. Do I want to go forward, backwards? I want to go full bore on those, because that would cause problems with power. But a couple bit of auxiliary thrusters wouldn't hurt in the back and forward. Any additional weight I can take off of, or additional capacity I can take off of the grid will definitely help the hydrogens. We still have the beam drill, yeah. I don't know if we would necessarily leverage that unless we got into very dire situations. I mean, you have to keep in mind, we're only really we're looking to live off the land here. We want to live off of what we salvage, so realistically, magnesium's about the only thing you can't really do that with, because it's not always a case of you manage to salvage the ammo that's inside of weapons. I'm looking for... there we go, the light corner. Give it a bit of a... it's almost going to have a bit of a Battlestar Galactica type nose to it in a weird way. Because then we got that side, and... I mean, it almost does look like cannons out the front. Yeah, it's been good entertainment watching these things come in. Unfortunately, I'd like to see something else come in now. I've been getting hit with mostly the helis and the Ajaxes, and I mean, those things just fall to the ground. And well, actually, if there's anything that's really satisfying to see, it's this view. Oh, that is so nice. And keeping in mind, that's already cleaned up of a half dozen grids out there. Skimming the ice caps with that, we get a decent bit of ice, yeah. But for ice tarmac, we're actually picking up an ungodly amount from the ships, because most of these ships, when they're going down, I don't think the Ajax is necessarily applied to it. But let me see if I can find... where's that heli? Because the Ajaxes are all Atmo. They're not going to give me they're not going to give us ice. But the stuff that's coming down with hydrogen thrusters on it, those tend to actually... yeah, you're not ice either. I forgot about that. No, you are hydrogen. Never mind. These guys tend to come down with quite a bit of ice on board. That's the assembler. I know there's an O2 gen in here. That's oxygen, conveyor, O2 gen. Usually you guys have... I think this one might actually have burned through it finally. They're coming down with ice on board. If we take them down quick enough, that is. I see this one's trying to home in on me personally. Even though I'm set to not be targetable, unfortunately the way the mod works is you can still very much be targeted. So that's why every time Tex goes to put his oxygen bottles and hydrogen bottles into the O2 generator to refill it, he's always complaining that Izzy's managed to refill the generator. Because, well, we've got that much. We can pack the thing completely full. Let's see, forward. I need to leave you guys open. Maybe... actually, I should probably get those side shots in here first. Our little mini broadside. Or do I want to... yeah, Mr. Farrell needs to remember he's working on something that's not really designed... I mean, remember, this is ideally staying low altitude. If we ever get enough hover capability on this thing, it will definitely stay hover. This is meant to be more of a land ship, not an airship. So being able to shoot up isn't, or at targets underneath it, isn't something I actually want to design into it. I need to leave that part of it out. So this will be curved on both sides. And we're going to stick our two forward weapons here. These will primarily be set to engage small ships only. So I got clear firing arc on the missile launcher forward. Railgun turret's going to have full coverage around the entire top. And these guys are going to cover primarily forward front. Let's do air mode again here. So we're kind of going battle pancake style on these guys. Let's see, I could fit something in here. Is there anything I can fit that I want shielded? I've got power. I've got the gyros. Could fit the antennas in there. No, by broadside I mean I'm talking like literal. Well, actually, broadside, this would actually be able to put up a decent broadside. I mean, not like a traditional broadside, but I'm designing most of this stuff to have pretty good visibility around everything. Let's go in, actually, seal up everything on top except, so I don't have that much hydrogen thrust in the top because I know I'm not going to need it. Let's do... in. There's the incoming fire there. It's trying. Something over there firing on it? Let's actually get rid of you. Haven't even heard that thing kick off its weapons. It must have the GATs off in that blueprint. So we'll do a half block on the top there. That will line up nicely with the shields and the turrets. Really nicely, I should say. That's actually pretty slick. It's the thing I like about the HS turrets is they are very easy to build into a hull. That feeling like, come on, you wanna? There you go. Yes, that's looking pretty good for a top so far. Top and a front. The other thing I want to check is, let's find the cockpit here. Ooh, that's something else I need to do. 3. Yes. There we go. Make sure I can reach you from the ground. Let's see. 400,000 shields. So at that point, we're already 1,000 shield points over what the Omni has. 4 times what we had on the Cossack. And the other thing I want to do is work in a... This is the other reason why I want to do a large grid instead of a small grid, because when you're talking about energy grids, if you want the details of the defense shields, you kind of need to be able to actually see what's going on. Let's try disconnecting that and that. So you have more than enough to keep you officially connected and from keeping Bob from grinding it up. That's right, I did some work over here and didn't do it properly. More accurately, take it away properly. Which is why I'm surprised you're sticking on, but... Yeah, I know there's a broadside cannon, the tank destroyer cannon. Also trying to stay away from that as well, because that's more a thing for lessons learned from PvPvP, which is broadsides don't work in Space Engineers. It looks cool when you can pull it off, but the weapon type you're pulling it off with is generally not going to be ideal for that sort of thing, because if you're firing, if you're not really working with a turret weapon, you're kind of shooting yourself in the foot. Just because at that point, the only time you're ever firing is when you've got the direct line of sight on someone, that you have someone that can pull the trigger, and it just doesn't work. It doesn't translate well in Space Engineers, because you can have a whole row of weapons, but you can't custom calibrate those weapons to... and I know there's a word for this, and it's completely escaping me, but the whole thing is you can't take a row of turrets and tell them all, yes, I want to shoot at a distance of 800 meters, and everyone is going to turn and maintain that firing point at 800 meters for broadside. No, the broadside weapons that you have are dumb and stuck straight forward. So you can't tune them in, so what you get is not a traditional naval broadside where you have all of your weapons on the ship more or less kind of dialed in at the same target, because they're tilted a little bit as you go further back from your center line to handle the range properly. They're, well, I mean, at least not, I shouldn't say all naval. If you think something like a battleship, certainly, but not necessarily traditional cannon ship. I keep feeling like I want to do something in here, and I'm not 100% sure what. But I got a good-sized cavity in here to hide some stuff. To the point where I could even kind of rip out junctions in here if I wanted to. Wanted to wire something more in. I've got 4 O2 generators on board. That should be more enough to keep one tank going. Or at least a little bit topped off until you can get back down and hover on the Atmos. I guess we're kind of at moment of truth. The fun part of building any ship on a sprue. Question is, does she float? Oh, she'll be fine right now because she's still stationed. Probably. Let's say you... Yeah, you're still stationed. You know what, before I do this, let's just go ahead and blueprint it. I'm not gonna call this thing anyways. What the heck of this thing is? Ship of the line, possibly, yeah. This is no static grid 2774. Let's see, what have I been doing for... Can't remember what I've been doing for the large grids. Nope. B. Oh, right, yeah, I was doing B for battleship. This is like a tiny frigate, I guess. So this would be first ship of the line. Frigate names. Farragut. Just as a placeholder for now, so I can at least figure out where the heck it is. And blueprint that, please. And we cross our fingers and hope that this thing doesn't fall out of the sky when I click that button. She holds. She's holding. You know, she doesn't have all the armor on, so I can't really make too much judgment about movement, but gyro power is certainly good. Nice tight spiral turret, 16. I'll take that. So you have to remember, she has to be able to potentially maneuver triple axis movement to avoid stuff penetrating the energy shields. Look at that. Man, I wish I had this in PvP now, because this would have looked far cooler. Yeah, well, I mean, Keen is Keen. Their blueprints are always the way they do their blueprints. Annoying. Let's see if I can do a ground loop. Not exactly a ground loop, but she's maneuverable. She'll hold herself up in a very quick roll, at least. Not the fastest at a turnaround, but that's normal for hydrogen engines. Take that little bit of extra power to convince it to get moving. You know what? I'm feeling lucky. Junker light airship, that should just basically vaporize on this thing. Yeah, she's got lifting power. 5%. I'm amazed that it's holding up that well. Shields are 1,000, meal and a half. Usage is nominal. Oh, I like this view because I can see everything from the forward thruster flickering, and the reactors in there too. All right, 1 kilometer. I should be getting in range for the railgun to fire. Let's help it out a little bit. Oh! 1 hit from the railgun, and she's holding up. She's holding up. There's the base of the ship there. Missile emplacements. Nope, that's the plasma turrets kicking in. I think we have a winner. Granted, there's not much left of that thing, but holy crap, that works. Yeah, Krieg, I don't think you really need to worry about that just yet, because honestly, the game is doing a good job of that right now on its own. I mean, I'm not kidding when, you know, I don't know if you were watching when I did the little bit of fire test on the Omni there. Pull up, baby, pull up. The hover's gonna hold her. Can the hovers take it? I'm gonna say no on... Oh, that's right, the hovers are off. What am I saying? Let's see what happens when I throw those on. Yeah, you're trying, but you're not having much luck. I need to bring down the bottom quite a bit. Less range on the altitude, more on that side. Yeah, they're there, but they're not kicking in very well. So I definitely need more hovers on this design. But for doing a start, that's not too bad. Very early on setup. Oh, that's turret firing. I was like, what's that noise? Oh, there we go. We got a happy little fighter trying to come in. Yeah, if I push the nose down, the thrust can't really override it that well. It is a hover, though. Decent direction change. No complaints there. Would like to see the weapon systems potentially engage a bit more here. Now I've got you set to a decent range. Why are you not engaging? Multiple targets blazing away at you, and you could care less. Alright, I'm thinking after turret for the plasma, definitely. Railgun must have been reloading. Missile turrets are unloading. Splash one target. Yeah, I think that's something I have to figure out, how to better fly this thing with the angle of fire that it's got. Simulate loss of H2. That is also definitely a good point. Let's find our hydrogen tanks. Or the hydrogen thrusters. And simulate a loss of... Okay, hydras are now off. Yeah, the Atmo thrusters are full out engaged. This plasma's doing a pretty good job of dialing in pretty quickly when I whip the nose around. And hammerhead down. Okay, so power, not a problem with the design, even with the turrets drawing on it. I imagine if I do lose shielding to the point where the energy shields have to start recharging, that would be a problem. Because at that point, then I'm really going to be in trouble. But no hydrogen, she's handling, not speedily, but she'll at least get around. I wouldn't have to worry about there being any issues with not being able to get back to base or anything. Just wouldn't be getting out of the dodge anytime soon, basically, is what I'm saying. Which isn't that bad, considering there's just, what, 2? Yeah, I've got 2 up front. I mean, realistically, that would be the bigger problem, is I would probably lose hydrogen, and then if I lose these guys... So, realistically speaking, what I need... Hesitant to throw extra weight on this. I'm going to have to keep the thrust up as well when I do it. Let's give you another back pair on either side. Drop you in here and drop 2 auxiliary thrusters off the back leg. So, we'll beef the back end up a little bit. Almost, if it weren't for the fact that I want the cockpit down low to the ground so you can actually potentially land this thing and get into it, it would actually be doing pretty good. Let's seal that gap up. Yeah, I want to keep the bottom as much armor as I can. Do I have room? I'm going to make one exception to what I just said. Because I do need one more thing on this hull. Let's see if this confuses the hover engines any worse. Leave the batteries slightly exposed, but I can live with that. I have... No, I'm adding weight, I'm adding weight. I shouldn't be adding that much weight to it, but... It's got to have the survivable factor on it. Like, for instance, the turrets there still need something underneath them. Rear turret. Rear plasmas. How do I want to pipe you guys in? Kind of want to just put a complete bypass to the tank. It's how the hover pancake was... The hover pancake? The battle pancake was set up. Is that had a ability to completely... All the conveyors were completely redundant, so they would bypass each other effectively if something went wrong. Let's turn mirror mode off so I can see what I'm building here. There, and I'm gonna split one out either side. If I can The question I've got for you on that one, Krieg, is how heavy is ferroplate? I mean, if we're really talking about... If we're talking heavy armor production at the weight of light armor, then fine, but you also have to keep in mind what we have on silver. Which is probably not, considering how many times we've been dying and having to come back and make new bottles. Let's... I can't actually get to that. How much silver do we have on stock? None, none, and... tiny little bit, and yeah. Granted, there's stuff that would have it that would be getting taken apart, but not enough to be necessarily building an entire ship's worth of protection on, I think. And realistically, the other thing to also keep in mind is we're talking a pocket warship just to get us back on our feet, essentially. We're not talking about something that is going to be expected to, you know, be in operation. That it's there to hopefully fare better, but I don't want this to be necessarily the only ship that we've got. I'd like to get back to a hover base if we can, just because hover bases are cool, but we definitely needed to figure out how to better defend it before we actually tried to build one. Because that was definitely our undoing. The hover base was a good setup, but not quite good enough. Alright, back deck armor should be good there. Need to add more hydrogen thrust too, potentially. Unless I want this to act in junction with... Well, actually, this is a good test. You guys said, okay, fine. Test it with the hydrogens off. What happens if I turn off the Atmos? So if we turn the Atmos off, will she still stay in the air? And yeah, right there I can say is if I put more armor on this, she's hosed. Ow. In fact, even just taking damage, a shot like that definitely was enough to say, okay, that's... How did I take that shot anyways? Shooting yourself up, kid? What's the deal? Some more hydros on the bottom. You genuinely getting through? No. Okay. No, that's effect of weapons shot getting through. What is shooting at you? What is still out there that's got a viable weapons turret that this thing hasn't managed to find yet? Especially pitched down like I am right now. Huh. Lower hydrogen thrusters. Where can I fit some more on the bottom? Ha! Right back in here. It's reasonably lightweight, but again, as I put more and more, and this is something I'm trying to be very aware of from the standpoint of the problems I had with the battle pancake, because that was just, it started out as light armor, then it went heavy armor, and at that point the grid basically became a paperweight. Very large, heavy paperweight. Close both sides in like that. A little bit of bunting around that piece. You've got the forward gear to land on. The back end to kind of further anchor it. And because of the way this is built, even if I lose the back two blocks here, the cockpit will still hang on because of the armored conveyor block. So that's good. I've got gyro power 2 to consider because I'm going to add a bit more to that. So let's stick some of those up in that nice little working area I have in here. Stick a couple up in front. I mean, at least with the gyros, I don't have to worry about iron or steel plates, so we know we got plenty of that. There's a junker over here. Let's see how this thing's going to handle itself if I throw a quick round of armor on. Kind of how am I going to finish you off? You could interfere with the hover engine, so I might as well figure out if that's going to be the case. Hover engines. Okay, we've got the front wings in place. Yeah, actually, let's bring that. I wasn't sure about doing an angled piece on that, but give it a little bit of some oddball styling on the front edge. Actually, no, that's going to be different over here, because that's... This is where I'm going to be adding all of the weight that could potentially drag this thing down to its doom. I think we're going to just block that in. They're turrets, so they're going to be taking fire. Let's keep it armored up underneath. I could pull armor blocks to save weight, but... So I'll have kind of a side cage here. Taper it towards the back. Hey, what do you guys know? I'm actually going to be building something that doesn't look like the Thug or the Kawasaki. Bet you guys didn't know I could do that. No. Come on. That's a bit more basic equipment there. There's my half slab. Yeah, actually, that's good because I want the back turrets to definitely be... I really would rather not have those firing forward if I can avoid that. I really don't need to. And like I said, I'm going to avoid putting anything on the shield gens just on the basis we don't really have the parts yet. I'll leave myself room too. Definitely want to have the capability to do that, but this is going to be an awkward curve here. It's never easy to combine these two things. I gotta remember I've got access. That's right, because you've got... do have access to the ramp mod armor panels. So I could make this a bit better. Connect that like that. Admittedly, I also do want to extend the shields a little bit around this thing. It's a little too tight in on the hull, I think. Didn't realize they were quite that bad because the fact that they weren't on when I was building. We're going to... yeah, the back end of this is going to be blocked off for anything going in that spot. I can do better than that. That's an ugly connection. That's more like it. Let's see, how do I want to... Can't really transition from that. Well, it just doesn't exactly look like what I had in mind, but she's getting there. Kind of had the idea of these two missile pods on the wings being actually higher mounted, where they were actually going to be up over where the railgun is, but I'm glad I shied away from that, because that railgun's got far better fire across everything. The downside of doing that is because of the tracking speed on the railgun, the AI for it. Yeah, it really takes its sweet time finding those targets. that in and start filling it under the wing. Do I want to do a half slope or... Yeah, I kind of want this to be streamlined on the bottom. We are going to see how well this works, because the amount of weight this is adding onto it. I want that to line up, so let's go ahead and go with... But, on the other hand, iron, we have plenty of that to work with. We've got iron for days in our inventory because of all the scrap we've been pulling up. Best salvage team in the verse is flush with iron. Platinum is another story, but... yeah, because Mr. Farrell needs to stop making things with modular thrusters for a couple minutes. It'd be so tempting. I would love to fit a modular thruster onto this thing just so it could actually pull this off. Now, like I said, the underside's not going to be as elegant. It's definitely not shielded quite as much as it really could be, but that's okay. The whole idea is this thing really should be spending more of its time on the ground whenever it can. Just give you a slight tweak there so you got a supporting angle on that back end. Tempting to push out that forward angle further to the side, but no, I'm looking at that and that's looking good. So now we just got to worry about the front nose. Did say I could put something out the front. I mean, I kind of like it having two split, you know, not really pontoons, but I guess they are. But I think I like the idea of having one more forward-mounted weapon just to be on the safe side. And that one, let's go to the board here. What do we have for options that I haven't really kind of thrown in here? Because I could see having another railgun up there, or well, actually, yeah, the railgun ammo is going to be potentially an issue too. And I'm thinking about that. Because that was... I still need silver for it. So yeah, the silver we need to save for the railgun, definitely. Crap, and the missile cases too. I forgot about that. They've both got that in common. And then the other thing was the... yeah, the plasmas are nice and cheap, so let's make that extra forward gun a plasma. Nice thing about the plasmas is they'll work on the small grids, too. Might need your engineering skills to make some prototype ships to test out Season 2 gear. Yep. Probably not a bad idea at some point. Let's see. You and a straight. Carry out one more to put you right at the edge of the hull. That's not right. Airing. I can't see what I'm doing. There we go. Ooh, actually, yeah, I think I am going to do... plasma and dual 60 mil. We'll do one underslung weapon because at the very least it's useful for anti-dag work. Because realistically that's where I should be using the GATs, but I don't want to stick a GAT on this thing if I can avoid it. Give this thing a little bit of a lip like Pegasus and Galactica. towards the front. Got that whole overlap thing going on. The overbite. Do I want to... I'm trying to think what else I could really fit in here, but armor is probably the best thing to do. Keep it like the armor on the pancake. There we go. Actually, I know what I'm forgetting. I'm forgetting one of the more important things. Because it sucks when you guys can't see anything on the stream, when I can't see anything on the stream. Let's make sure I get these cameras set up right. View and view. Beautiful. That is a pretty good visage point, I think. Must have had one of my grids take down the heli's antenna when I did that flying test. I bet it took down the antenna grid because you know the flood of Ajaxes has mercifully come to a stop. You're shooting through your own grid turret. Please stop. Turret. What are you doing? Come on down to the ground. Yeah, gyros are still good. Thrust still leaves something to be desired. Particularly on the turns. Can do a little bit of a pinwheel, but not much. This is definitely a grid that needs to be flown getting a tilt into the turn, leaning into them. And definitely a learning experience. I might have to stick a camera up by the turret somehow. Because I've definitely got to remember I've got a flyer thinking more like this. Because if the nose can't see it, the railgun's not firing. And just also, Keen, it would be really nice if this thing weren't trying to fire through its own grid on the side there. Might have to yank the plasma for that. Or stick a turret up there that's got better clearance for it. Other things I'm missing. I need armor up in this location. Okay, you're not gonna have anything there to stick to, so yep. I'll leave that as is there. Not gonna try to put any detail. Well, it's gonna look weird if I try to do detail there, unfortunately. So maybe I'll just actually go with some generic paneling in here. A little bit of another overbite to it. Oh, that's good. That's perfect. That's more upper shielding. Let's get you down. I want to throw more hovers on this thing. I so do. It's going to be hard to figure out where to retrofit those things once we can actually start putting them in. Okay, energy shields are taking that. Hovers, please. Thank you. Let's see if I can get the, no, turrets don't have anything they want to shoot there. Fine. What do we got in the wreck over here? Anything? Yep, you found something to shoot. You're happy. Well, the thing with the... If you're talking the battle pancake, putting a service door in. Absolutely. That was... Unfortunately, you've got a tight design like that, you really have problems trying to repair it. But in the case of having Bob, I really shouldn't have to get in there, especially because that's really just blast space. That's there to keep me from... keep my engines from being horribly, horribly exposed. This is really how the Battle Pancake should have been built, as far as the thrusters go. Well, not exactly with the cockpit dangling out the bottom. That is so horribly exposed. Let's see if I can catch up to that junker up there. Let's see what happens if we try to engage a target from ground level. So, oh no, my hydrogen's out. I am on my Atmo engines. Uh-oh, what happens if my Atmo engines go on my hovers? Well, not in that case. I flipped the Atmos back on there. So I'm not aware of just how well the hovers are going to hold this off the ground. If they will they? Yep, she'll hover. She will hover. She's not going to go very fast because I don't have anything on her to bounce her around, but they're close enough now. Oh, I still have hydrogens on, right? I forgot I added those. Hydrogen tank. Save the group. On, off. There we go. Now we're completely cold coasting. There's that building I took out in the Cossack that we've never actually done anything with. Junker is trying. Well, that's one way to come to a stop. How you doing with that? Because the junkers are what's really screwing around with us here. Maintenance shields are holding. Full charge, doing pretty good. Alright. A little bit of a forward tip to arrest that momentum. Is that junker actually... While I was doing that, turrets say yes, junker done. Here's the top half there blasted loose, and the bottom half. Okay, so we've got potentially a successful build. Mind you, I'm not loaded out with ice, so I'm not simulating having the O2 gens running, and I'm not simulating having the ice on board as it is. And it's still going to be a lot of components to pull this off, so I don't know how this is going to work. But if I can start building this up on the surface and at least get the mounts for the turret points in, that's going to give us something to start fighting back with, at least the plasma cannons. I mean, this is holding up pretty well. Alright, let's see. Let's take you guys over to the resource processing station and see what we can do to it. If we can go down to the ground a little bit, please. Nice little hover altitude. So what I'm missing is I need increase altitude minimum, decrease altitude minimum. These things are no laughing matter, so if there's anything that's going to potentially blow it up... Actually, no, it looks like they didn't spawn in any specific protected turrets here. Oh, no, that's right, I've already been here to do some target practice. Sure, hey. Need you to spawn something in-game for me to go after. Keep forgetting I was doing practice with weapons on this world. Aha! Cobalt cargo ship. Wait a minute, what is... Hang on a tick. So when do you spawn in tanks and whatnot on this world, my friend? Oh, that's a lovely little surprise. It's gone, but it's a lovely little surprise. I didn't know they were doing that. Yeah, because I think this is old enough that that's the cargo platform we salvaged, so that's not an issue. I think the storage module Cobalt is the one I've also kind of futzed around into, if I remember right. Let's drop those hydros, drop down, and let's see what we can do about... It's definitely a good vantage view on these cameras. It's a shame they're going to be the first things that go when they get into a fight, but... Let's try down to 25. Yeah, the Atmo thrusters are... The hovers are holding up nicely. Aside from the fact that this is all screwed up. Hang on. You got a target over here you're trying to hit. You see something. I'm kind of seeing this is how it would actually fly, too, is the hydras would be off most of the time. Only when I would need to actually get a good amount of fire out. Oh, whatever that was, that's toast. That's going to be the other problem with this particular setup is I'm going to need to definitely have groupings for the weapons and be able to flip them off pretty quickly when we get in the range of something we want to raid. Because otherwise, I'm going to be blowing up all of the salvage. Bobs are not turned on right now, Pete. I actually have those off by default. So they are also not trying to do anything, and that also means that they're not loaded down either. I should also get my group for those. Bill Bobs. You should all be preset properly. No, you're not. That's interesting. Should have inherited everything from my mod settings file, but it hasn't. Very interesting. Nearest first. Push items immediately. Ingots and ore. Sound volume down, please. And leave you on walk. Grind if weld gets stuck. And actually, that's another thing I'm thinking about is lighting. Need some lighting on board here. Actually, no, large grid. Oh, large grid. This is the other reason I want to do this as a large grid. Because I can... light up the night. Okay, we got those on default settings. Let's... radius, fall off, intensity, there we go. This grid is now incredibly well lit at night. Let's drop your hovers down a little bit more. Okay, that's probably good for cruising there. I still feel like that back end needs more work, though. Something's... definitely needs something more back here. Let's get... maybe... some side shielding for the thruster output. Continue that all the way down. that way, that way. 3, let's swap you back to default. I mean, those are armored conveyors. I'm not too worried about leaving those exposed. And then wrap the back of the turret so that's protected. I mean, it's a little awkward, but it's also pretty cool seeing that stuff stick out. I'm leaving the cargo bays open here so there's actual access from outside if that's needed. And that does make me want to do that, so you have a ledge you can get up on real quick. Or on the ground and need to... Or even just like... Well, hang on for that matter. Small grid, large grid. Full seating for the team. There you go. That's not bad. I mean, it's a flat end. It's got a flat ass to it, but, you know, it's kind of the face that only a mother could love right now. Believe me, there are far worse things I could be building right now. Actually, let's do that. Let's do... Give me daylight, please. Let me show you just how bad I could be building. And play around with something that will give me a chance to test this with the... Oh, I gotta get an antenna on that thing. Antenna or beacon would be nice. A protected range over here. Do I still have... I should. I had it up earlier. The alligator. This is what happens when Mr. Farrell tries to build a large grid battleship for the first time. It's not meant to be in the atmosphere, mind you. Need to get a beacon on mine, and I'll go back and reset the enemy. So to make sure that the guns on this can't see that thing, or else the second I turn them on. See you, Tom Spears. No, it's not so much the Warforged. The problem is that ship was built to be, actually, that's what I can do with the beacon. Yoink. Come on. Let's find the beacon and turn that up. Not down, up. Extra 0 on the end there, Farrell. The only other thing I can think of that I haven't added in here is remote control either. Ooh, that, and I'm spotting another little bit of detail I need to attend to here. Did I put mirroring on? Yes, I do. Okay, good. Didn't realize I had this edge still exposed. Alright, so you are 1 kilometer away. Let's back you off the ridge. Nice thing about balancing out the thrusters like that inside means that I am definitely more than fine for taking care of that. Let's... Oh, the grave. The grave. So ridiculous. Battleship, battleship, battleship. Alligator. Teleport here, please. Drop me down because I'm a little worried about that cargo ship that's coming in. That may be about to invalidate all the testing. Actually, before I do that, just to give you an idea of the reason why this thing is the way it is, let's see if I can remember. Right, I did build that in, but I didn't put a button control on the outside there, so that's annoying. There we go. She's designed to be entirely a spaceship, and for one reason, that's because I built just this. So it's a bridge control module, and the entire ship was designed just to house this. So the reason why this exists, it's all that this is for, is just one big giant bridge module. That's it. Everything else in this thing was entirely secondary. Remember how that was the hangar bay, med bay, cryo. Oh, that's right. I did have a hatch mid decks on that. Is it? Gotten lost on my own ship. Oh, there it is. It's also not very well lit. Engine room and... Okay, yeah, that's the engine. That's all the hydro construction. And big giant picture window to look outside for no reason whatsoever. She's also about to go from you. Inventory control, everything on. Transfer to Space Pirates. Yes. That should have made you hostile. Yep. Okay. Back to F8. Not gonna be able to do anything because I doubt the AI is gonna do anything with it, but that thing is moderately well armed with a lot of missile launchers, and that's the next concern. Is it's one thing to say that I can handle a modded weapon hitting me, but I want to see if I'm gonna get thrown around badly. Figure out how to... There's the missile launchers kicking in. Oh, that just sawed the front end off of that thing. Holy crap. That thing survives assault by vanilla weapons pretty darn well. The fact that that just got sawed in half. Most of that armored core that we're seeing, that the bridge module is in, that's an armored, it's heavy armored in that section. It was an entire, it was like the bastion of the ship was supposed to be able to survive that sort of problem there. This sort of assault. Also, the plasma turrets need adjusting. You are not all firing at maximum range. Oh, there's a vanilla grid demolished. Do have to keep the nose down. It's the only thing I've got to remember on this. Oh, the hydrogen tanks are gone. That's the core. Okay, that gets a pass on vanilla combat. Holy crap. Alright. You are claiming to be an armed transport of some sort. Your lift is leaving quite a bit to be desired right now. Proper DACA and a proper ship that seems to be holding up. Let's see how this works, because that should... That's an... Yeah, that one's got modded weapons. Okay, so we're good there. In fact, that's got a railgun on the front. I believe that's the... can't think of the... Shakos... No, that's not the Shack launcher. In fact, we're already taking a pinch out of it. It's pretty good. Holy mother of God. Okay, that's bad. Now we're gonna find out how well this design survives. Back out of the... Krieg! Ah! I hate that sound bug. Well... Ow. She's still somehow holding up. I'm missing... Yeah. The landing gear got blasted loose, knocked back into the cavity where the hydrogen tank was, and has locked onto its own former ship. Before the game could come up and realize, oh, it doesn't have signal, or it doesn't have power. Now, that looks like a bad thing, but that to me is definitely a successful test. I'm running off of purely the what's left of the hydrogen thrust, which is going to be running off of the two O2 thrusters there. So that's holding up. That would hold up just fine, I believe. Because that doesn't have the... It's two O2... I think it's two O2 thrusters for each... Or two hydrogen thrusters for each O2 gen. On large grids, I think. I could be wrong. That one's cut off, so that's not a problem. The right side of the ship is cut off. That's to be expected. The entire conveyor run on the left is intact, along with power. All the forward weapons are still in place. Forward camera's still in place, for that matter. That's a... Nope. I think I lost both forward cameras. Let's see what we had here. Yeah, 4 and 5 aren't responding. Okay. Put our hovers on. We've got... 2 hover engines that survived that. This is what we call a successful test. In the standing that I was able to at least pilot at home. Slowing down, slight bit of a problem. Also, landing, bit of a problem. Yeah, their landing gear survive, yes. Yeah, she's tipsy. Both forward thrusters are there. I've got sides. Am I missing? No, I got rear. Yeah, just single thrusters though, so that's why it's hideously slow. Now Bob's kicking in. My Bobs were not on for that, by the way. And even then, I still have a good amount of them left. Landing gear stuck right there. That's hilarious. Give me my, give me a grinder, please. Just get this thing off of me. Okay. So, from the standpoint of survivability, that passed with one flaw, and that's right up here in the front. When the front engine went, it took out the only thing that was connecting everything together. So I definitely need to come back, put a 4-way in here, and connect around to this conveyor here. That would definitely have helped pretty significantly. Shields, there's just not much more I could do with that. I mean, that was energy and regular shields that thing just absolutely whipped through. And lest anyone think that there's something up with that, I probably took down the cargo ship. So it's down. Nosedive right into the ground, too. Oh, this would be dangerous as heck for us to try to approach right now. So, yeah, that's the problem with the grid replacements. That thing had its own... I think that's one of the Sea-Wiz there. The reactors are there, but badly damaged, and its ship still has power. Yeah, this is not something... I mean, that is probably what did the worst of the damage there. Clan weaponry there, and another Sea-Wiz turret there. So, all things considered, that's not an easy target to take down, especially when this stuff is bypassing shields. So, Krieg, that's why I'm kind of saying... Yeah, that's why I'm kind of saying you don't really need to worry about coding and shield bypasses. Believe me, they are there. it is certainly doing it all on its own at this point. I mean, let me pull the battle pancake here over. Or the ridiculous pancake, as I should call it, because there's just absolutely no reason why this thing... I stuck the turrets on the wrong end, too, thinking I was putting them on the front, and I put them on the back end. Which makes for interesting piloting when you're trying to line things up to shoot, but... So you have a fully functioning shield grid there. Okay, that's not what I want. 2, nope. 3, nope. Yeah, 4. 4 is the right one I want. Alright, no, I got it pointed the wrong way. Alright, yep. Need to pull it in closer. So this is basically more or less the same setup I had on the other design. With the caveat, I think that the, over here on the Farragut, I believe this is still running the vanilla reactor side. I don't think I'm running... Pretty sure I'm not running anything exotic on this. Squirrely as all get out. Did I do... I didn't swap out the azimuths, and yeah, your vanilla reactor emplacement there, with 2 additional small shield gens on the other side of that. So, as far as this thing goes, let's find out. No. You wanna let me type game? Thank you. Yeah, equivalent shielding, slightly more if anything. I'm inside the shield bubble here. And what I'm going to do is go down to the base, grab control of a railgun. Don't even know if that actually did anything. You're still there. Alright. Holding up. Okay. Oh, it's doing that though. Let's see what your shield readout is. I stuck one on you somewhere. Okay, that's actually managing to hold up on its own. Tell you what, I got a blueprint of that, not in its complete state, but close enough. Let's really do something. Oh yeah, that's right. I did put reactors on that. Functions. Control panel. Everything transfer to the spids. Actually, no way. Before I do it, let's get you out of the shield bubble first, because otherwise you're just going to completely flake out. There we go. Select all, transfer to Space Pirates. So there you go. Fully shielded, and it's still completely obliterated it within seconds. So, yeah, they are just a tiny little bit. Yeah, that's kind of the biggest problem of why we're having things vaporizing in seconds in the game right now, because we're just hitting one of these heavy weapons, and that is more than enough to cause some issues, shall we say. Let's bring back that grid. So slightly older, but that's okay, because I want to make some... think about this one a little more. I mean, right now it's viable enough in this form that it would be able to go into combat, and in all honesty, nothing I could do to this grid would save it at all. Because, like I said, the grasshopper, or not the grasshopper, the alligator, pretty sure this was a heavy grid ship. No, if anything, guys, this is more on the level of of Wasted Whale that I've been building this towards. That's light armor. Light armor, light armor. But I'm pretty sure the core, because that's what this is here. This is the bridge that I stuck in the thing. Did I put you in heavy armor? Nope, I did put you in light armor only. Okay, never mind. The whole thing was designed to have the bridge as a sealed unit, basically. So, the idea being that if you've managed to tear things apart this bad, that this is everything that you need to survive is in this section of the ship, aside from assembler and refinery. So that really doesn't make a valid test then. Trying to think of anything else that would... I just don't have a lot of heavy grids to work with. Most of my stuff is going to be light. Light, small grids. The heck was... Why we're doing that? Oh, right, that was a variant of the Cossack at one point. Or something, I can't remember what... Oh yeah, that was the super hideous variant. That was the one I decided I was really going to go all out on ridiculous guns. So, for example... I think this would... Actually, no, I think this one wasn't capable of breaking through the shields. I know this one will. Over time, eventually, that will break through, but no. What was the other? I know I've got something that should... Was it the iceberg? I think the iceberg was planetary capable. Oh yeah, that was back when I was in the... This actually was supposed to be the prototype of something to build in PvP. And it's probably a good thing it wasn't, because it would not have survived more than a minute. This thing has so many holes, it would have been boarded in 2 seconds flat, and would have been eating ice like nobody's business. Was this before I had the camera, or nope, camera, yay. Okay, good, that shield holds. You've got a broadside of shield, or not shield, missile turrets. Ooh, that hideous noise. Is this when I actually put a... Did I put a refiner in this one? I can't remember. But it was a long time since I worked on this design. Ah, that's why. There's stuff falling out of the sky. Holds its own. It's just a case of it's got to be able to do it at range. If I'm engaging a target within its capability of fire, that's when I start losing badly. And I think that's just a case of that's just how we have to start running the battles at this point. We can't really go in and do a dogfight. You're going to have to be shooting at extreme range for all this stuff. Bet if I bring you over... Come here. Let me grab a turret here. Not the increase. I'm going to control you. Okay. Let's see. The hydrogen tanks were about there. Nah, it's the cargo containers. The reactors are definitely back here, though. Nope, no fancy explosions. I mean, just tearing through that with the railgun, that should mean we have no problems with any of the stuff we're facing. Yep, that's enough to do it. Critical loss of thrust on the right side of the ship. She's going down. I see. That's the med bay there. That's not a clip through it, but anyways. That's kind of what we're up against, I think. It's a good ship design. It works. The shielding, I'm not... I mean, a lot of the damage definitely from the hydrogen thrust, the hydrogen tank buried underneath here. Feels like maybe I need to bury the shield emitter underneath everything, along with the shield controller. Maybe if I shift that to the bottom of the ship, that will help it live longer, because the cockpit certainly held out. I mean, like I said, the fact that this thing from the tank over to that side was gone, and I was still in complete control of it, that's a good thing. That's the point where we just need to put a projector on this thing and just have it automatically rebuild itself. I think we got something I can work with, at least. And it just means that the last problem is going to be the hover engines. Because that's 5 gravity components for large on each one. Yeah, it's going to come down to the parts. That's what we're going to have the problem with. If I can get the gravity components on here, we've got enough to build the reactors. I might go without the hovers, if that means that I would be able to get the shield emitter. Because that's really the next test. The next test would be to come back to a more recent backup of the world and see if we've got the parts for this. Actually, no, there's one other thing I've got to do. I need you... Yeah, there's no way. Oof. This is almost like the Battle Pancakes level of damage by the end of things in PvP. Still trying to respond. She's got the up thrust to do it, but she doesn't have the forward thrust right now. Ian, can we please not spawn the camera in a default position so that every time I try to move, the camera starts jerking back and forth? That'd be really nice. Come on. Oh, right, the hovers. Come on. You can do it. Maybe going down a little too quick, but... There we go. That's not too bad. It got in that position, and you can come up here and jump up and get in the cockpit, so... No hydrogen? No problem. But here's my next question. Will you... I suspect I am about ready to completely screw up the, Oh, right, and this is back when it was still a station. At least I know this will work. Info, convert the ship, please. The next problem is where to build it, and that's because, realistically... Yeah, there is no way I'm going to get you down that direction. What about... Yep, this is a one-way trip only right now. Just gonna hit the Slayer, the hover tank at the bottom there. It's a tug of war right now. The force of a small ship's hover engines are holding up that entire grid. Let's see if I can get you out of the way before you sink down to the ground too far. There we go, good enough. Yeah, so she's got insufficient... I'm trying to figure out how to even build this. And building it in shelter would be ideal, but... You can see that's already going to be... Cut the grid wider. Text wouldn't be happy with me, but... That is a possibility. At that point, that's just the case of the voxels are in the way. How much of you can I build out underground and then just thrust into position too? Not a lot. If I keep the building grid flat. Oh, you did not like that game, did you? Oof. Can I... because if I try to tilt you... That's hitting voxel still. You are being a... royal pain. I might be able to get this kind of built underground, but that will piss off Wasted if I do that. Unless I widen the whole thing. That's where I got the... Yeah, I need to turn the hover engines off. That's the other problem. Yep, they are off. Okay. So... Would you like to go down as far as we can go here? That seems a little ridiculous that one large hydro thruster is not enough to thrust that grid up against gravity either, but so be it. That's not that bad. Might have something here, guys. I mean, if I don't put the missile launchers on, then she will definitely fit down the hole without needing to grind away that bit there. So that's the only reason it isn't going down there. So we got room to build something about this size. All the way up to this point. So I could just branch something off, build it internally, and that gets me the guts of everything. Even down to the shield controllers at that point, mind you. Hydrogen tank wouldn't be on. That would have to be added last minute and piped into. Strap a cockpit anywhere on this thing just to get it to fly up. That would be the next problem, but got a lot of extra armor on here we can also leave off. Yeah. I think we got enough room to build this sort of thing inside the overall not the cockpit, the base here, so that's ideal at that point. I mean, if we have to bump this up a little bit and put a cap on top of it, so be it. Once we get base defense online of at least a railgun, and then a missile turret to back it up, and then a plasma turret, that will help. Other thing we're also going to have to do is... let's just get you out of the way quicker. Just going to have that to actually be able to look at off stream. Now, base defense itself, that's another problem. Let's... because obviously we're going to manage to keep this place going long enough to actually build all of this stuff. Good enough. Alright, so let's say we got one of those, one launcher, one railgun, and one plasma. Plasma's going to be close in. I need to... oh, actually I do have a plasma. Well, 2 plasmas then. I'm being generous. Plasmas are actually the easiest thing we can probably get stuff for right now. And how many rails do we have? We have the one here. Okay, 3 plasmas. It's behind that spot there. So the next problem is just what's going to take to get a shield. Ugh. That's probably not going to happen because 120 grav generators on the station shield emitter. That's another problem with the, whatchamacallit. Yeah, Strithip fit just fine. That's perfectly fine. Nothing wrong with that. It fits. I might have to stomp it down a little bit or maybe drill out a little bit more down at the bottom, but I could get this whole thing to fit down there. Problem is, I'm going to have to find some way to get out of there. That's the problem. That's just going to be a case of strapping some extra atmo thrusters to it. Okay, so that junker is doing what all junkers like to do, which is be a royal pain and sit outside of my turret range. Which is the part where Farrell says, alright, I'll go get this thing to come after me so we can get it into the base and get it for salvage. You guys typically know how this goes. Today, Mr. Farrell is going to cheat. So Mr. Farrell is not going to limit himself to stuff that he can't use normally. Come on. Get me some altitude. Give me some altitude, please, before I close in. Holy crap, this thing can't even maintain a stable lift. Even with the wings. This is why I decided not to go with the sniper cannon, because I can do this just fine with the bombasts. See, now you're moving. Oh no, I've got his attention. Let's bug out for our home. Holy moly, does this thing not have thrust right now? Well, that's just it, Krieg. It has 5-kilometer range. It won't fire at 5-kilometer range with the AI. The AI is definitely... anything over 3 kilometers has not been... the AI is not willing to actually use the turret, so... you gonna really make me bust this out and see if it can hit you? You're gonna make me... no, you're probably... really going to want me to go within a Gatling range, aren't you? Yeah, you know, once again, Keen making things worse for everyone. Realize that Junker is very close also to where I shot down that magnesium ship. Alright, you. Junker. Within antenna range. Are you spawning anything to come after me? No. Also not exactly spawning anything trying to hit me right now. If there's anything trying to hit me, it's that cargo ship. Oh, you're trying to... There we go! That's the wake-up call. This is why it's very difficult to get to this vulnerable spot up here. Because this is where the Junkers are vulnerable, and this is where I love to try to get with these things. Because at this point now I should normally just throw on the bobs. Let's make sure these Vulcans are on. I know they're not necessarily 100% working, but... Huh. Come on. Let's lead you back to base. Oh, ouch, 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 ouch. Triple axis movement. You can't hit me. You can't hit me. La 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 la. Should not be happy taunting the weapon systems. There we go. That got its attention. Alright. Come on down. Join the party. See, that's where we had all those wrecks that I dropped earlier. Way back in the series. Okay, realistically at the start of the month, but... hasn't been that long. Feels like it. Well, that's just... Well, here's the thing, Creek. The LBX and all of the small ship weapons, they don't have the range to engage against the large grid modded weapons. It's that simple. I mean, you saw what happened when I tried to get close enough to just even within bob range, effectively, which is more or less kind of the same sort of effectiveness of the cluster cannons and everything. And it's still very much could have very nearly killed me. There we go. I mean, if anything, if there's the one weapon I should be playing with, and not doing this out in the open where the enemy is very happily capable of firing at me. Hey, the Vulcans are firing. Didn't realize there's another one out there that somehow still maintained its control. Oh, come on. Oh, I'm not doing 3-axis movement. I'm doing 2. There we go. Now I'm on 3. Shields, shields, sanctuary, sanctuary. The ground shields are the only thing that are actually worth a damn right now. Holy moly, I had the whole posse of junker drones against me there. Alright, let's show you the real fun one here. Photon torpedo. Let's pull you out. Don't need mirror mode. I only need one of these. Believe me, one is all you need. I have no idea what the mount point for this thing is supposed to be, so I'm just going to assume it mounts like so. Make sure I'm firing this thing the right way too. Yep, okay, so pull back one more layer. if you want to talk about small grid survivability, and the ultimate weapon to pull out. And I'm, again, not sure if that is set up right at all. Come here. Take out all the stuff for that. Photon torpedo launcher. Shoot once. It's buggy as heck. It's got a crappy reload timer on it. But this thing absolutely works. And it's got the craziest of weapon effects there. It doesn't tell you that it's reloading either, which is another problem. I can't maintain that rate of climb. Oh, yep. You do not have... I think it's the wings that are screwing up. Come here. Let's clip your wings. It seems every time I try to put something with wings on this planet lately, it doesn't like me. Can't look at that. That just completely... Come on. Seriously, game? Downwards thrust is bugged out. Alright. It's okay, we'll fix this the cheap way. That's why it's the holodeck. Turn that on. Come on, I know you got the power to pull off. Good lord. She doesn't have the power. What the heck is going on here? No, wings are buggy, but the modular thruster shouldn't be the problem. She's got enough power for it. Yeah, to get a power takeoff, I'm having to go through all that. Forwards and downwards thrust. Oh, come on. I need you to leave a drone for me here. Weapons, you can take care of the large base stuff. I will happily take care of the drones. Okay, there we go. Now we're finally getting some decent thrust. They're just being really picky down at ground level, that's all. Okay, so that's still working good. Alright, now we get to show you just how bad I am at leading my shots. Come on. Nope, missed. And the Vulcans are just gonna tear it apart. Alright. Now your Vulcans start working, Krieg. Alright, that's okay. Let's get Vulcans off. There we go. Hey, look, it's a target coming directly for me. Okay, that didn't do much damage. That'll do some damage. Nope, even that didn't do damage. Lovely. Okay, fine. Let's go for some good old-fashioned destruction. There we go. That was a torpedo. Direct hit completely will vaporize just about any small grid. Nope, that even did some pretty good damage against the large grid. I'll wait for the torpedo to reload. Come on, you annoying little... There's another drone out there. See, it gets traditional enemies. I'm perfectly fine. The shields are holding up nicely on this thing. The second you start getting those modded turrets involved, all heck breaks loose. Okay. Nope, that wasn't on target at all. Fortunately, Mr. Junker is staying still. He's not within range yet. Really, drone? Go away. You're bothering me. Okay, let's see how that does. Yeah. That's the entire back end of the balloon gone. Just to get you perspective on that. Very powerful small grid weapon. Has the reload time of... yeah, forever. And it doesn't tell you how long it's taken to reload either. As opposed to the spray and paint method of, yeah. Crit erased, and... there. See, if I have a functional ship like this that's got good shields on it, I can last quite a bit, but... there's another junker drone trying to come up at me. Alright. It's also a manual fire weapon, too, so you pretty much have to tell it when to fire once. It's almost as bad as the Mark 1s. As much as those work, they're a pain. Let's see how much more of this thing I can tear up from the top. Torpedo. Yep. Straight through the envelope. Should also mean that as soon as this thing reloads, because you have no turrets up top that can touch me currently, ha 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 ha. Trying to fire it, trying to fire it. There we go. That's inside, and I believe almost, yep, that's through. That's completely through the ship there. Get out of my way. Being a pain. Same with your brother there. Go away. They're cute little ships and all, but... where is the junker? Down on the ground. So, yeah. Photon torpedo, definitely worth it for a small grid. But, holy moly, do you really have to get used to firing that thing. You've got to have the perfect shot when you fire it, or you're done for. And also, definitely not rebuilding the Cossack on the planet anytime soon. Great for a space superiority fighter at this point, but planetary, no. Even the planetary defense one that I uploaded isn't all that great. And unfortunately, the other thing, let's also check to see what it requires for the ammo for that thing. Actually, I don't even know if it does. I think when we were looking at that on the last stream, it was potentially power only. Could be wrong. Let's just kind of spawn it in upside down and see what it looks like on its mounting point. Because as far as I can tell, there's no way to actually get into that thing. It's all a completely sealed unit. Well, you say that, Krieg, that there's a lot of small grid options. That's right, that's the hydrogen thrust I'm seeing flickering on the shields. Not the shields flickering. The problem is there's really not. I mean, I actually went down through the list at the last stream, and I mean, here's kind of what we're looking at for the weapons here. We've got all of these things. The vast majority of these are meh-ish for range, or they require very specialized parts that we'd have to make for them, which we don't really have the parts for. We need nice, simple weapons at this point in order to kind of take on a lot of this stuff. So some of the more exotic stuff is out, completely out. The photon torpedo launcher I'm okay with because I know at one point we did have small pulse cannon construction boxes around. On top of all of that, then we can go in, and I ran through the Civ series. Just don't have the range. What's the problem with those? Was the range? I can't remember. It's all of it's in the stream that I did. Because that was primarily the problems, the criteria that I was looking for. It needs to have good range, which means it needs to basically be able to fire at the max range that any of the AIs are firing at, which is 3 kilometers. The ammo's got to be cheap. It can't be anything that's using platinum, uranium. We just don't have stuff in abundance at this point to do that, especially platinum. And it's got to do decent damage, as in, you know, if I'm not looking for like melting through the hull Gatling capabilities or even stuff like that photon torpedo against that junker, but it's still got to be able to at least do some sort of damage. It's got to be able to snap off a turret if you aim for it, because we basically right now have a single chance to fire against any enemies we come across, and either we stay out of range and try to cheese the fact that the turret replacement mod is only doing turret replacements between setting the range to 800 to whatever the max of the turret is, which we also know doesn't matter because the max the IA can do is 3. So we either are cheesing it for range, or we've got to be able to get off a destructive shot to take off the turret before the turret can take us out. So those are 2 options, and really staying back at range and just pot-shotting things from extreme range is not that exciting. So that's kind of what I was looking at, and then that's why with the small grid of fame, what I've got is the Clan Bombast laser. That's a fixed mount. It's not a turret mount. That's why it says fixed there. That requires uranium for the ammo. So as much as I love it, I can't realistically use it without potentially burning through all of our uranium. The DAC is a good shot. I did try that one, and it kind of worked in place of like the Vulcans on that, but it didn't really kind of work quite as well. The Tau Auto Defense Cannon wasn't bad, but that's limited to a 900 meter range, so that's completely out. The single dual plasma 60mm works, and the great thing about that is it shares the same ammo as what we've got here. So we can make lots of it, and both, you know, the small grids and large grids can use it. There's a mini plasma, which didn't seem to work that great through on the large grids. On the small grids, it's the same problem with the mini Gatlings. They shoot through themselves and will damage themselves. Then, of course, you got the photon torpedo launcher, which that's a 1 kilometer range. Completely vaporizes small grids, completely vaporizes chunks of large grids, but the reload time, the fact that you don't know when this thing is reloaded and is ready to fire again, means it's a huge risk to fire. And the fact that you have to power it from the shoot command in the cockpit. There is no... When I go into the G menu on this thing, there's no... Are you actually going to give it to me now? There wasn't when I was testing it. Okay, now you will. Okay, never mind. So that problem's there, but you can see it's not telling me that I have no ability to fire it right now. So that's kind of a problem in combat. You need to know, like I said, it's the same problem as the Mark 1s. You need to... Look at that. Granted, it hit a reactor, but yeah. Good weapon, that. So, yeah, with the small grids, the problem comes down to you're looking at about a kilometer, really. I think the most realistic you've got for that is that. And I know you're talking about the clan machine guns, but then the problem is with the clans, I've got to produce all of this extra stuff for it. Yeah, I can do a clan machine gun, but I need superconductors for that. That, right off the bat, is something we don't have tons of sitting around either, especially because we're burning through superconductors like crazy, just rebuilding the azimuth of the reactors so many times at this point. There's so many... I kind of wish I had a copy of the Doomba down here. There's so many freaking azimuth reactors on that thing that it's just blowing through all the supplies of superconductors. So... I mean, at least the nice thing about this is if I go large grid, it's there, it works, and it wouldn't take that much more to throw some extra work into it and get it so that it could get up to orbit. That if we absolutely have to, as a last resort, call in the trade surplus or call in supplies on board, we could. Just because it's not up there doesn't mean it's gone. So that's kind of what I'm figuring out here, guys, is what can we do on Uncoop to kind of better engage. And unfortunately, here's the other problem is, yeah, I've got all these great weapon systems, but I don't have this thing anymore. I don't have the platinum to make a heavily shielded fighter anymore. And the other thing is, I mean, this is honestly the first time I've been flying the fighter around and it hasn't just vaporized. If I try to go up against the head up towards that cargo magnesium ship that I downed, you guys will see just how long this thing is going to last if I try to run this in a normal battle. Because it's very short-lived. Omni, the front half goes, and that takes out the cockpit. This thing can survive the loss of the front of the craft, but then you're completely dependent on the weapons in the back, and those don't tend to last very long either. The thing else to remember is there's stuff down there that'll shoot at me if I'm not careful. Because those wrecks are still down there from where we have salvaged them already. Let's also get our Vulcans back online. So best case scenario there, the hovers are off, all thrusters are on. Oh, she's sluggish. Well, I mean, it's kind of... I wouldn't say necessarily need to do an expansion or anything. It's the case of when you're working with a small grid, it's by nature not going to be something that should be able to fire as long and as far as a large grid. And realistically, we wouldn't really have that many problems with small grids if we still had something like the cargo ship with us, or if we had a good intentions to play with, but we don't. So, right now I'm within range of any weapons on the transport ship that are still there. So I'm on 3-axis dodge. Active weapon is the plasma torpedo, or photon torpedo. And you can see right there, 3-axis dodge, and it's not helping. I've got to get close. There's the camera. There's the front end. Torpedoes not reloaded yet. The shields are nuked. At this point, the whole grid is feeling like it's dead in the water. She is not doing much of anything to get out of the way here. So I don't know what that little lovely stream there is, but that is a lot of hurt. So yeah, when you have something like the Cossack and the Thug Boat, which is designed to be able to, yeah, exactly. It's a turret that is unfortunately getting swapped in and is absolutely wrecking us. I mean, that's typical damage for the severe damage for the Cossack. I mean, geez, at that point I've lost the auxiliary side reactor. Half the shields are gone, and half my downwards thrust is gone, which is a bad enough thing already on the vehicle. There's nothing I can do as a small grid to survive that. I can't. I mean, the fact that it's a pulse weapon too, that's doing a much better job of following me than normal keen weapons, that's another problem. So even like the triple axis move was not causing that thing to miss at all. So you do one pass and suddenly I've lost half the craft, and that's how we've got to the point with the Cossack where it's just, well, there goes another shield generator I can't replace, there goes another shield generator I can't replace, and now you get this. So that's the problem. There's no way that I can have any sort of standoff unless I do something like hope that the enemy grid doesn't have anything sitting parked in close range, or it doesn't have anything at, you know, that 2 kilometers that they can engage with, and I'll go in and see if we can cheat and put a block in, because I kind of have to have something to put the camera on. You go with the long-range sniper, which is just kind of like, that's, you know, fun. I mean, you want to kind of be able to go in and have those exciting little runs. But this is what we're down to, is, okay, well, let me creep into range ever so slowly. I'm on the bombast. I'm going to accommodate for the fact that the turrets on that thing, the antenna's far enough back on it that maybe I can do damage from here. And this is what you get for the stream, is just me doing something like this. And this isn't what we did in orbit with corruption or anything. We went in there and we got mixed up into furballs with it. You just have to hope that eventually I might hit with something that might do some damage. Or I've got to try to outwit it and hope that maybe I can get underneath its turret arc, and that's proving difficult as well. Okay, let's see. Maybe I can get down to here. Oh, wait, no, this turret's on the other side. That might still be there. So I might be able to engage from this range. I think I might have some hovers left here. Exactly. Sorry. You're exactly right, Hellrats. That's the... Oh, there you go. Right there. Cockpit. So the only choice you've got is, because of the turret range on that thing and the angle it's capable of firing at, there's no... And the where, you know, where it is on the hull of this thing, there's no way in heck to get close to this thing in a safe manner. I mean, just there's your depression on that. It's shooting way further down than like a typical keen turret might be able to. Not a typical keen turret. Another typical turret might be able to at that range. So really, I mean, at this point, this guy hasn't even gotten involved yet. So we don't even have the anti-fighter turret even engaging. It's the D-class turret that's killing everything. There's no way I could get close to this wreck, so the only way I could take it out is to have this same weapons range on a ship that can get close enough to pin it down. But in the meantime, I've already sacrificed half a ship to even bring this thing down to the ground. So you got no guarantee. You've got a lot of loss already. Now I've got to bring over another ship, try to snipe out that turret from long range, and hope that whatever's on board is going to be good enough for what I need to rebuild. Let's take a look at that, shall we? Nothing. Nothing. What we've got here? Magnesium. The aforementioned magnesium that the ship has. So, from a standpoint of longevity, it's not worth it bringing down these cargo ships. You don't get anything out of them. You get, okay, whatever ice is on board, because there's clearly some ice and hydrogen left. You get a lot of iron plates. You get motors from the atmospheric thrusters. A couple other items from it. And that's really about it. A couple grids. So, yay. I got that. And then maybe if you haven't... If you're lucky and you pot shot the reactors on this thing and there's no battery systems keeping it alive, then maybe you're lucky enough to get the exotic parts off of the weapons like this. But they're very few and far between that we do that. So that's kind of the trick. Is, yeah, we have the capability to build some pretty awesome stuff, but we've got to find a way to use it in such a way that we can sustain ourselves. And that's why it got to the point last Uncooperative stream where I was just knocking together basic craft just to try to throw it at it, basically. And it was, if we lost it, no big deal. It wasn't a lot of heavy resources on it, but even that approach is starting to wear pretty thin. So that's the problem that we have. And that's why I'm kind of looking at it from the standpoint of, okay, well, can we create a large grid that we can take out with a small grid at least? And if I have to, I can at least run, since we're not in space at this point, I believe we're technically safe from corruption. The hacker drone, I hope. Granted, it would still spawn in who knows how many Reaver ships, potentially, but we're at a point where if we have a large ship that can provide covering fire and the small grid like a Doomba that can go in and very quickly mop things up, it works. But if all we're really doing... Here's the example I put together with the... change time of day so you guys can actually see here. These are the little van drone parts that, you know, the little recon drones that I brought over. So, okay, you got a recon drone, you've got a manable drone here that you can fly in and scout out things and whatnot. Oh, is it safe? And, you know, if I lose it, I lose it. It's not an entire small grid that goes with it. That's why I kind of went with that whole approach with the small stuff. And then I think all the rest of the drones are so small that the game probably binned them for trash. But then, like I said, you gotta watch out for hacker. If you guys installed an ion cannon, it would help. Well, yeah. If we had something that had a range of 50 miles and could shoot from orbit, yeah. But then all the stuff up in orbit would be taking it out. We're actually better off on the ground here. Space just gets really tricky contemplating what's going to happen when we get the turret replacement mod and we're going back into orbit. But, you know, case in point, okay, I brought down a junker. What have I got off it? Okay, well, let's see. We've got some small steel tube, large steel tubes, handful of computers and construction components, all mostly iron. There's no platinum on any of the stuff we're bringing down. Maybe there might be a little bit of... There's a platinum at 100. So that's clear where we've got our supply of platinum from. Considering we've got some of that there. We've got, okay, a couple hydrogen bottles. That's silver. But it's very rare for us to get all of the cargo off of anything. A little bit of uranium there from a reactor. It's mostly steel parts we're bringing down. There's nothing in that one. There's nothing in that one. The loot just isn't there to keep sustaining this on any sort of, what are... Boogie Woogie programming block, apparently. There's over here, I'm sure there's probably some... Yeah. Also, could someone explain this to me? There's a negative amount of ice in this. And it's all completely separate. Can you weaponize the bubble shield? You can. The bubble shield by default is going to... that's why you saw when all the Ajaxes during the start of the stream were coming over here, they were getting shot up and then they would just kind of land on the shield and that would be it. And they would just destroy themselves on the shield, basically. You can do it, but this is a station shield down here. This is not a ship shield. So if I go in and slap down placement for what I've got on the other ship that's missing now. It's the emitter for the shield. That's it's a station bubble shield you're looking at here. That's why it is able to be so freaking huge. If I go to you and slap on shield controller and emitter. And let's max this guy out for its range. Charge rate. Are you letting me... No, you're not. Why are you not letting me extend that shield? It should say no extendy. Okay, hang on. No extend shield. Does that help it? Yeah, that's the extent you're looking at. So now you have to get this ship to survive long enough against that target to ram it. Now, let me kind of put this from my perspective. You guys know I'm used to ramming things in Space Engineers, intentionally and unintentionally. These weapons are capable of pot-shotting through both kinds of shields layered together in a handful of shots. That's the problem with trying to use that as, like, I mean, even something like a torpedo round. I know that's going to be the next thing someone's going to say, well, design it small enough. Well, keep in mind, we're still putting all of those resources, including 200 superconductors, into that. Yeah, it doesn't really... the math on it still doesn't work out at that point, even if you manage to go in and precisely disable an enemy ship. And most of these ships are pretty sizable. And they have a lot of redundancies on them too, so it's batteries along with reactors, and it's multiple reactors that there are multiple engines that you have to take out to get it to drop. Let's actually take a look at... Let's see what this guy spawned with. Oh, you're just a regular junker cargo ship. This one would be the easiest one for us to take down, honestly, at this point. But, I mean, look at kind of, let me thank you. That's what you've got on this guy. This is nothing. This is, you hit this thing with a little bit of light Gatling fire and it's gone. You hit it with a railgun, forget, there's nothing left. And all you're really looking at is not much there. Okay, there's not going to be much ice in that thing. Okay, let's see if we can... Okay, can we engage on something else? Something other than thank you. Being really picky about dropping out of pursuit mode. So that's what really all the challenges we're facing is you've got a lot of heavy damage weapons that can hit at ranges that we haven't been able to hit at. Fine, we can construct the weapons. I've got a good list of weapons that we can set up for base defense. They do a good job. But they're going to be dependent because 2 of those weapons need silicon. We've got to start bringing down more targets that have silicon, which is going to start dictating kind of how we have to go through quite a bit of stuff here. We've got to take things down in such a ways that you're going to be able to go through and have stuff that's got silicon in it. So we're kind of talking about, for instance, computers. We need to start salvaging computers like crazy to get a little bit of silicon out them for the ammo. you've got two ammo types that need weapons or silicon. Platinum, we can't do the shield components. We can't do large grid. You know, that's the other problem, is we've got to find a source of platinum. And it's just not plentiful down here. And unfortunately, I don't think the shield blocks necessarily show up on the large block construction menu to be able to summarize it nicely and neatly. But thruster components, cobalt. Where's I seeing silicon a second ago? LCDs, salvage every LCD we can. That's the kind of stuff we're looking at, and that's why I'm kind of saying we may have to start resorting to mining. As much as I know Wasted doesn't want to do it, we may have to actually pick up a block or two here, or a rock or two, because we're otherwise potentially on a downward spiral. Glass is silicon too, yep. And that's why the helicarrier, if we can find those, the heli spawn is good. Some more of that original, not the armed transport, but the unarmed transport. The ones that really do look like a large barge, from out of the water in space. Those have a good amount of glass on them. So plenty of that sort of stuff. The displays. There's a lot of stuff we can do, but in the meantime, all we're really getting out of salvage like this, where the bulk of the craft is destroyed, is, okay, I'm picking up a little bit of the surviving parts out here, and maybe a little bit of that, and nothing for cargo in most cases. I don't think we've ever actually had a cargo ship come down that we've actually got all of the stuff legit off of that it said it was carrying. And in the meantime, every time we do this sort of thing, we're really losing more than we're getting back. Because we're losing the Doomba on multiple occasions. We're losing the fighter craft that I'm constantly going and building. I mean, even these Ajaxes have a little bit I can pull off of them. Not a lot, but a little. So it's really scavenging right up to the edge. And that's the tricky thing, is we're teetering right on the bit on that edge, guys. I know everyone's kind of wants to be a little more optimistic about that, but I don't know. Tex and I mean, you can hear the frustration in our voices, I think, sometimes. So that's just one of the things that's on the back of our mind constantly, is, okay, well, we just brought this thing down, but it cost us 2 fighter craft to do it, and the Doomba went out to try to get stuff off of it, and it barely made it out alive. So what are we getting out of all the salvage? That's the big one. Clean up the world there. Actually, for that matter, let's do a trash cleanup here. We'll do a trash cleanup, and then that way I can save the world and wrap things up for the evening. Well, here's the problem. You don't want to necessarily get rid of that large grid, the large Doom weapons, because it's legit fair. This is a heck of a cool challenge that we've got this thing that the AI is able to hit with the same sort of stuff we have. The problem is we've also set ourselves that additional trick of, oh yeah, we need to also, live off of what we salvage and don't go back up to orbit to do stuff. Just worry about what you can pull off and we'll live off the land and don't go mining type thing. And that kind of makes things a little more difficult to work with. So if anything, I think that would be more of the... Well, I would say that'd be more of the changed setup there. But then also keep in mind, we're trying to keep it entertaining as well. So... your guns have nuked all of us multiple times at this point. The amount of death that your large guns have managed to pull off has been phenomenal. And also keep in mind, it's not doing this every time. And like and Lucas has pointed out that, okay, these are setting random ranges between that 800 to max range, or 803 kilometers. So there's a little bit of fairness in there that, okay, well, we should be able to sneak in under this stuff, but we got to build ourselves back up first. And the fact that we weren't thinking about that sort of thing when we were designing the hover bases defenses, and we weren't thinking about, okay, well, what can we do? What can we maximize? What can we munchkin the heck out of in order to really go all out on? that's the challenge. And now we're at the point where I've identified 3 weapon systems that we can go with, one of which should not be a problem to get going at the very start. Certainly we're going to have to keep around some magnesium for just wolf defense at this point, honestly. And we've got enough room to design a decent pocket warship in here. Maybe with a little bit of a cap on top of this to help protect it a bit better. Because the other thing I also haven't really said is we could also really dive underground. We could dive underground and pull the hole in over our heads, basically. Drop down all of our turrets into the upper level of this, like a couple little ways down, and that would negate, like, if the turrets are down here, I don't care if anything gets shot up on the surface, but when something gets within range, our turrets would definitely be able to fire on it, and we would only have to worry about shielding over the entrance, basically. Which we might be able to do if we had a large grid ship just parked there. And just run a bubble shield across the bay. That could be possible. I don't know. I've got to really kind of figure out what we've got left over and work with the guys and figure out what we can do. 1.0 sim speed once I clean that up. That's actually not bad, considering that there's still a lot of wrecks out here. Including a wreck that the base is just definitely going ham on trying to target. Counting blessings at no merciless one. Well, I just said that. That's going to happen. Alright, guys. I think that's a good spot there. Well, yeah, Strith, we are absolutely at a massive disadvantage not being able to mine. But let's face it. Would you really want to see us mining for 4 hours? Gotta kind of ask yourself that. And yeah, absolutely not. That would be pretty grueling to go out mining for everything, because I mean it's been said multiple times, we're actively sitting on top of silver right here. So as far as materials to build the ammo that we need, yeah, it's right under my feet. Now, that doesn't mean I might not necessarily come up with a little bit of an excuse to try to expand the base out that direction. And if I run across ore, I've got to get rid of it to build, so... Just saying! But that's always an option too, so... I don't know, I would talk to Wasted before you do anything, Craig, honestly. Because he's kind of the one who's really engineering a lot of the unique challenges that we're facing here, and this is definitely a unique one, especially, I mean, that graveyard right there is proof that you armed the base sufficiently enough, it can take on quite a bit of stuff. Give it a bubble shield and it will definitely hold. And if that's the case, that we have to wind up sending a trip back up to orbit to tried to fetch something from the trade surplus under the guns of the corruption, and oh dear god, all those ships with the... Ooh. That's not a happy thought, thinking of the sniper drone with the bombast laser on it, I gotta tell you. Strith, it's... We could do an auto miner. The problem there is all of the auto miner scripts, well, the best auto miner script that's out there, which is PAM, doesn't maintain the mining jobs across the across world saves. So what happens is once you save and quit Space Engineers or shut down the server, then the job that it's doing is lost. So then you have to go back in and try to set it all back up when you load back into the world. That's why I'm actually not using PAM all that much on Relaxing Survival, even though there's a lot of stuff I could have been using it for. It's just a pain to have to try to set up a high-precision drill job again and again and again. You know, that's why I've kind of hinted it would be nice if that script could write data to the custom data of the programming block it's in and use that to somehow save the job in some way or another. I don't know if that's really possible from the scripting standpoint, but it would be pretty cool if it could do that. we do have those, actually. You mean these spinal weapons? Which I have seen show up on at least one ship during testing on the holodeck here. Not on stream or anything, but in offline testing. Yeah, the spinal cannons are indeed on here. We have been extremely lucky that none of them have had those spawn in. I think there's only one ship type that could pull it off because of the way the turrets are spaced on it anyways. So we've been kind of lucky in that regards. Alright guys, that's a good wrapping up point. I'm hitting the 4-hour mark here. So, just want to thank you guys for watching. Sorry this was over on, you know, that things weren't working as scheduled today, unfortunately. No. Yeah, Krieg, don't tell Wasted about that, please. Otherwise, we will be absolutely doomed next time we load in. Hopefully things will be back to normal next week. I don't know. It's going to depend on how much longer the Atlas craze works out, and I don't know if Tex is on or off shift next week for Uncooperative. Don't know if they're going to have Engineer Corps tomorrow or not. I don't know what Tex's schedule is for tomorrow, unfortunately, either. But he... Probably, if nothing happens, you can almost be certain that Shaq and Waste will be doing some more Atlas together. And I believe, more than likely, Mr. Space is still going. Let's check. Yeah, he's still going. So, go ahead and make sure you pop over. Can't exactly do a raid on Mr. Wasted Space from YouTube over to Twitch, but go over and try it anyways. Feral raid, I guess. I don't know. And I will catch you guys over there momentarily myself. Thanks for watching, and hope you guys enjoyed.